Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rainmakers home opener, Seattle Rainmakers here at Rainier Beach Stadium in Seattle, welcoming the Portland Stags from further down south on the I-5 corridor. A beautiful day, some breeze here at Rainier Beach. My name is Dave Bestock, and I'm joined by
Jake Cooper. Here on a, as Dave said, a gorgeous day for Ultimate. Little bit of wind, it'll keep the game interesting, give the D some shots. When the O takes some long shots, you can expect that disc to hang a bit or do some interesting moves.
We'll see the D scrambling to catch up with those. We'll see how many long shots these teams take, but definitely some capable throwers on both sides. These two teams faced off once previously this season, and the Stags definitely got the better of Seattle's Rainmakers. Seattle hoping to overcome that and see victory here at home today.
That's right. I chatted with some of the Rainmakers before the game, and they said they really weren't worried about the 6-point loss to the Stags last week, reminding us that last year they lost the Stags in their opener by 9, and every game they whittled that lead down until at the end of the season they were beating them. They really improved throughout the season.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a rough start for Seattle. New coaching staff this year, Kate Kingery and Fiona McKibben, maybe adjusting to the new coaches, maybe some new faces on the roster here for Seattle. Whatever it is, they'll be looking to improve, of course, throughout the season, and definitely here for the hometown crowd here in Seattle.
Absolutely. You know, the Stags were letting us know that they've had very little turnover from last season, so they're really working off last season. So no surprise that their opener at Stags home, they beat Seattle by 6 and then routed Vancouver last night, an 18-point win.
Wow. Yeah, impressive point spread there. We'll probably be looking to see Seattle mixing it up a little bit on defense, seeing what might work against Portland's more steady veteran offense.
That's right. What Seattle's been doing at prior seasons that's worked very well for them is they've been even losing some of the first games, but they're really trying out some different defenses, some different offenses, and trying to figure out what's going to work for them best in the postseason, which has been very successful for them so far.
Yeah, we'll see them mixing it up and seeing what works with their relatively young team. So, just finished here with the national anthem, and the teams are. You can see Portland's gathering here to talk strategy and getting ready to get started here shortly.
So, of course, we really don't know what the goals of the teams are, whether that means that Seattle is going to go for a win here or if they're just going to try things out and see what's going to get them later in the season, and they might be totally fine with a 4-point loss today.
They'll be talking it over now with just under 3 minutes to go until the first pull here, as Portland takes the field and the Rainmakers huddle up to talk some of their strategy over.
That's right. Not quite sure yet who's going to be pulling and receiving, but it looks like the Stags are going to start on offense. They've got their offensive line going out there. Looking at Timmy Purston there, number 13 with the headband. He has been a score captain, just a missile for the end zone for the entire MLU season.
And I'm told Timmy Purston is 1 goal and assist away from 100 career goal and assists.
That's phenomenal.
So an impressive stat, and you'll see him active on offense, maybe going both ways. He plays a lot of points for these guys, comes down with a lot of long balls as the Rainmakers send out their D team to get things started here in Rainier Beach.
One critical thing for the D-line is going to be who's going to guard Timmy Purston. Who do you put on him? Is it going to be Evan Klein, a 6'4", big guy, can dominate the air, but Purston seems to be able to find the end zone on just about anybody being marked up on him.
He's a hard one to guard, thus the impressive stats and the steady starting for the Stags. Purston, a long career in club and now pro. Noted for often wearing colorful headgear and socks over his cleats for years. I don't know that that's a tradition that he's continued, but you could always tell Timmy Purston there with some exciting and colorful outerwear.
Looks like he might have had a say in the Portland Stags' choice of uniforms, that bright orange. It's got Timmy Purston written all over it.
It does. And the Rainmakers, of course, with their patented stripes, blue and green, Seattle colors. The sidelines getting amped And the starting 7 are out for both teams as we're just about underway.
That's right. Seattle pulling with a slight downwind. Only slight, but you still might see some ill-advised hooks where people think, this wind isn't enough, and it turns out it's enough to do something.
And there's the pull, and the Rainmakers are coming down. A nice pull back in the center of the end zone. That was in, and the Rainmakers get what they want, which is a turnover on the goal line. Feely picks it up and seemingly spikes it into the ground, hoping for a call. No call comes, and the Stags will have slightly better starting position here.
Folks turning around looking at the officials, but no call.
Swings over. McGinn, who's a rock of their offense, puts it right in the hands of Will Shaw, who can't get there, or rather gets there, can't hang on to it. Feely will try again, and will try not to throw it into the turf this time. Set up a stack, a nice cut, and a round break by Feely to Cam Bailey for the first score of the game. Rainmakers go up 1-0.
So there's Cam Bailey finding the disc in the end zone. That is a break for the Rainmakers, and a desperately needed one. In their loss last week, they had plenty of opportunities to break the Stags. They just weren't able to convert it. They were turning it left and right. And as you saw, they turned that first one, but then got another block. Well, got a gift, and were able to put it in this time.
Yeah, a couple of quick turnovers there from both teams. A little sloppy start as the nerves start to cool out for both teams. And a nice little end zone play there from the Rainmakers. A little split front stack. Feely with a nice teardrop high backhand to Cam Bailey. And the D team will stay on and try it again.
Of course, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So you've got the same D-line. You also have the same O-line. Maybe thinking, hey, let's not call anything broke yet. That was an error. A little drop. We'll get those jitters out.
The pull is up, hanging as the Stags hustle into their vertical stack and play it right from the catch. Nice opening downfield. Sending one to Purston. We expected to see that. That's a nice shot downfield, and Purston reels it in easily for a goal. 1-1. Stags quick to strike back.
That was Greeley, who was going to guard Purston that time. Thought did a fine job. That's Purston streaking deep, which, hard to stop. But it was the same third of the field. That's a really difficult shot, but made it look easy for the Stags that time, just putting it into his lap.
A nice downwind throw, a lot of hang on it, allowing the long legs of Timmy Purston to catch up and reel it in.
Puts Purston at 99 career goals and assists. One more, and he hits 3 digits.
Knock, knock, knocking on the door.
We've got the Seattle offense, first time taking the field. See how well they can put that disc in. Try to make it look easy. Try to find their fitness together. As last week they found 9 breaks, not what you want to see from an offense.
That is hard to recover from, so hopefully they're feeling refreshed, ready to put something together here today.
You see Danny Tridiak running away from the disc as Steve Gusson looks like he's going to catch it. Gusson usually a deep threat. Tridiak usually a terrifying person with the disc.
Nice pull from Rice as the Stags come down on D. That's a tough shot cross field. Nicely reeled in by Clay Dewey Valentine. Looking upfield. Open downfield is Breen. Reels it in. Close to the end zone. The Rainmakers catching up, trying to get into their end zone set. And Hauser sneaks into the corner of the end zone for a quick score for the Rainmakers. A nice deep shot to Breen.
Good deep shot from Clay Dewey Valentine. When he threw that, it looked like there was some coverage there. We couldn't really tell how far away to that far sideline he threw. But Clay Dewey Valentine is one of the few guys who just doesn't turn the disc. He's only had 1 turn, and he is a rock of the offense. He's had something like 40 touches. 1 turn, that's a 95% completion rate. You can't argue with that.
Wow, Jake with some math knowledge, and indeed, Clay Dewey Valentine, a solid player, good on both sides of the disc, very quick. And there we saw with a nice downfield shot, putting it to space, and Breen able to run onto it.
You'll see that a lot out of Seattle. Both teams here running set plays. Seattle set plays start with a horizontal stack, and I'm guessing you're going to see the Stags start with 1 player picking it up on the side, or centered in this case, and then everyone else in the center with a very clear play call that isolates 1 player.
Harmouche pulls it just out of bounds, And the Stags will start at the brick mark with a very spread downfield vertical stack.
Got Adamson and Hayes in the back, two very big players.
Not able to get the motion coming out of the stack. An outside in, inside out throw over to the side. We've got an opening here. Streaking downfield is Adamson. And though the Stags had a challenge initiating their offense, a bailout long shot on the flick side leaves the Rainmakers scrambling, and the Stags are able to punch it in.
That was really a good work on McNally. You know, they turned over to look at the dump. The mark came around all the way behind, looks forward, and it was, I believe that was McNally, number 69 there, on the Stags, who saw there's just a whole big space of the field that's open. I'm going to run there, throw it any way you can, and it worked.
Not the prettiest throw, but, you know, when it gets there and onto the break side of the field, it ends up being pretty. And it's 2-2.
2-2, Rainmakers still up a break, but after that first point where they managed to put it in right off the end zone, it has been even with the offense scoring. No turns since that point.
That's right. Lot out of the gate, cleaning it up so far.
Nice work on both teams as you see a couple new players on both sides as they're getting their rotation a little deeper, getting everyone warmed up. Pull by Hayes.
Gusson initiates to McKibben, swings it over to Tridiak. Big thrower is Tridiak. Hauser takes off deep. Tridiak, a nice floaty throw for Hauser. Plenty of time to run onto it and able to get there. Nice pressure from the Stags, but a beautiful shot from Tridiak to Brad Hauser for the goal.
Hauser manages to get it past a diving Minershagen. Minershagen gives it his all, about 6 inches away. Pops up, walks over to the sideline. That's all right. We'll get him next time.
Minershagen almost able to get there, but nice space there. Tridiak making it look easy. Buttery throw.
Those deep throws are pretty tough in this wind. Again, not a lot of wind, but the flag is moving a bit. And for those deep throws, especially high off the ground, that'll move that disc plenty. 3-2 Rainmakers as they are still up a break.
Harmouche set to pull. Last one snuck just out of bounds. See if he can keep this one in. Give the defense a chance to get some momentum here for the Rainmakers. We'll expect to see another vertical stack from the Stags. Harmouche's pull. Shallow, but definitely inbounds. Centers to McGinn. Over to Adamson, over to Purston. Purston puts one up. Not often the thrower. And Klein there able to snatch it out of the air.
Purston looking for number 100 with that assist, but Klein wins the battle.
Hung up there a little too long, and Klein was able to get there. Chris Rupp now handling on the defensive end, and it looks like contact. Rupp will take yards and try again.
That's right. You see a very spread offense by Seattle, that horizontal stack that they use to give lots of space and make it harder to switch for the defense.
And with that horizontal stack, you're really looking to get the disc to the middle of the field, and there the Rainmakers not able to initiate through the middle, so they swing over to the sideline, keeping it in bounds. Back to Klein, who got that D. Swings it over to Rupp.
You might not see on the screen. They're very deep right now, those cutters.
Cam Bailey keeps it alive. Moves it over to Harmouche. Rainmakers doing a nice job of moving it quickly off the line when they get it over to the sideline. They haven't found their, whoa, a little bounce to himself does Stacy. Keeping it alive. Nice D from the Stags, but not able to get contact on it, just enough to scare Stacy into macking it to himself. Nice dump and swing. Wow, this is a generally ill-advised throw. The crossfield flick into the end zone, and the Stags defense able to get there. The hanging crossfield flick into the end zone. Don't try that at home, kids.
You know, Johnny Stacy broke up the plan, which was small ball. Small ball has been Seattle's bread and butter. Small passes, 15 yards, 10 yards, and they were working it great.
McGinn will initiate for the Stags, swinging it back into their own end zone, up to Purston. Purston able to get a lot of undershots because he's such a threat deep.
Big bid by Cam Bailey.
And
Isn't
now
quite able to get there.
Seymour sends it all the way down the field.
And Adamson with the diving grab to get the Stags back even with the Rainmakers 3-3.
A nice quick strike from one end zone to another.
Great bid by Cam Bailey. You know, we haven't seen a lot of defensive effort on that slight downwind edge.
Can't quite get there, and Stags able to hang on to the disc and send one downfield. Adamson with a nice grab on a pretty shot from Seymour.
Beautiful throw from Seymour. Good work there, not getting too overwhelmed by somebody bidding past him and just recognizing, hey, my defender's on the ground. I don't have a mark. Let's turn around and put this disc where we want it.
As we saw on the other end, you know, Stacio had to bobble it to himself when there was a near bid, what's called a shadow block. If you don't get it, but you scare the offensive player into dropping it. And there, Seymour able to hang on. And now 3-3 with the Stags. Pull. Centered to McKibben. Hauser takes off deep, goes to Tridiak. We saw this once before. Tridiak sends it downfield. That's not going to come back in, however. And the Stags will get a chance at this one. We saw Tridiak send it to Hauser successfully in a previous point. That time, Tridiak not giving Hauser a chance, sending it out of bounds.
Tridiak, one of the scarier throwers in the MLU. You know, some players like Rupp, you'll see, moves it off the sideline, bounces it like you expect, but Tridiak throws the unexpected.
Cole swings it off the line for the Stags. Rice with the disc. Through the pressure. Nice defense from the Rainmakers. We'll see if they can recover. Woodside now sends it upfield. That's Cole. And the Stags are finding their way upfield, having moved it up the field. A huge hammer across field. Gussin swings and misses, can't get there. A nice shot from Cody Bjorklund. Cross field for the Stags break.
As Orange gets their break back. Those orange jerseys, if you want one, you're looking for Canterbury. Canterbury, the official apparel sponsor of Major League Ultimate, dress like a pro. Visit www.canterburyus.com. The destination for all your team's custom uniforms and athletic apparel needs. Canterbury, proud partner of Major League Ultimate and committed to the game.
4-3 now for the Portland Stags, who will pull it slightly downwind. And a miscue on the offensive end for the Rainmakers led to a nice conversion by the Stags, working it upfield on the line, and then Cody Bjorklund with a nice hammer crossfield. Again, not always what you want as a coach, but when it works, who's going to complain?
You know, Bjorklund is maybe Portland's answer to Danny Tridiak, that person with the disc who's just scary because they're so unpredictable. They have such a wide arsenal that they're not afraid to use.
We've seen Bjorklund make a lot happen for the Stags over the last couple years. A rock of their offense. And a nice hanging pull here from the Stags will give them a chance to come down, or at least the two of them sprinting down. And we'll see what the Rainmakers offense can do now. Dewey Valentine with it in the center of the field. Gustin gets open, but Clay Dewey Valentine already looking elsewhere. Up to the sideline. That's Entz with it. Swings it over. Again, so far, Rainmakers have done a nice job of moving it to the sideline and then moving it quickly off. Now Gustin looking downfield. Tridiak gets an opening deep, doesn't get there. Oh, a nice.
Can't quite pull it in. One
Nice
thing you've been
bid
seeing there, if you're not seeing it, the downfield players, one reason that Rainmakers are bouncing it so much is because their downfield is just too deep. They really don't have viable shots deep.
Especially going upwind, the wind's picking up just a little bit. Stags initiating here. Open cross field. Minershagen sends it. Oh, wow!
Wow!
What a grab!
Grab by Penner. As
Great
the Stags
grab.
get their second break. That's a throw from Minershagen. Cross-field flick.
Penner.
Curves in.
What a grab. The outside edge, reaching across. That's a hard catch to make.
That is very hard, but Stags get to put another one on the board. 5-3 as they pull ahead by a break. 3 in a row for Orange.
And it looks like a timeout on the field. The Rainmakers will talk it over and see if they can tighten up their offensive line.
Nice work by Portland there, earning that timeout from the Rainmakers as they came all the way up here from Oregon, show the Rainmakers that they can beat them again at home. That's their goal. Came up here by U.S. Coachways. Do you have a team trip or corporate outing coming up? If so, charter a private bus, minibus, or party bus from busrental.com, a U.S. Coachways company. Bus travel is one of the safest, greenest, and most affordable ways to get your group to an event. If you're going with a group, trust busrentals.com and enter coupon code MLUBUS and get additional savings and VIP treatment.
How about that? MLU looking out for you. And Stags here on the road so far with the leading edge over the hometown Seattle Rainmakers, putting the pressure on the defensive end and capitalizing on, as you said, Jake, some miscues on the offensive end for the Rainmakers. What do you think they need to do here to tighten it up?
What I'd love to see, the Rainmakers defense is doing what they can. They haven't been able to convert many breaks, but they haven't had too many opportunities either, as they're not getting the turns. The offense, though, I really think those downfield defenders need to come in tighter. You see those opening plays, a set play. With these downfield defenders too deep, they're trying to make space, but the space is already there, and the defense knows it.
Yeah, you're taking away your own ability to take deep shots there when you bring those cutters too far downfield.
It's like we were saying about Tridiak and Bjorklund, is that there's an unpredictability that makes it very hard to defend. And when everybody's deep, you know they're coming underneath. And as a defender, if I know where you're going, I'm going to get there before you.
That's right. Jim, are we live during timeouts? Stags retaking the field here, as are the Rainmakers. And looks
using
like
a timeout to pull from half field.
Yeah, the Stags going to be pulling here, looking to keep that pressure on. The Rainmakers looking to clean up on the offensive end here, down 2 points, 5-3. The Stags ahead.
Stags burning a timeout there to be able to pull from midfield, hoping to keep this momentum going. They've scored 3 in a row. They had their 0 point and then 2 breaks. And they're going to try to keep that pressure on Seattle, pull from half field, and try to stick Seattle back in their own end zone.
Seattle will expect to see that flat stack again and see if they can initiate that offense through the middle of the field better than they have been. They have been sending it a lot to the sidelines and having to work it to the sideline, a lot of swing action. If you're able to get it up through the middle of the field in that flat stack, you can let the downfielders run ahead with it. A lot more field to work with. Here comes the rolling pull. Dewey Valentine chasing it down, can't get there. Not sure if he
did touch it. It's going to come in the back of the end zone.
But it'll be coming in the back.
One thing I don't want to see out of Seattle here is a Huck playing for yardage. This is not an upwind, downwind game yet. They should be able to score from here.
Double team. Strong play from the defense there, but they're able to move it over to Feely. Feely to Hauser, back to Feely in their own end zone. Good pressure from the Stags. The Rainmakers able to work it so far. Moving over to Breen. Breen back to Feely. Expect Feely to get a lot of touches here. He likes to get the disc and makes good decisions with it generally. Dewey Valentine, as you mentioned before, Jake, same thing. Not a lot of turnovers out of him. Comes to Feely there. Wide open downfield is Klein. Over to Hauser now. Tridiak, stutter steps downfield. Hauser puts up a nice one. Tridiak with position. Able to reel it in over 2 defenders. That's Danny Tridiak with a goal for the Rainmakers.
And you see Cole going down, wondering how Tridiak ended up with that disc. Cole is taller, seemed to be in position, got up there. And who has the disc when they come down? Danny Tridiak.
A veteran position catch there. And a nice shot from Hauser, putting it out in front, allowing Tridiak to get position, get a read on it. And as the Stags struggled to catch up, Danny Tridiak comes up with it, comes down with it. Goal, Rainmakers. They needed that one, huh, Jake?
5-4 Portland. As I gotta hand it to Portland. I think they did an excellent job trying to trap Seattle in the end zone there. Really strong defense, especially by Bowie, who was sitting there on the handlers. And those handlers really had to work to get it out, but kudos to the offensive line for Rainmakers, who pulled it out, got it downfield, and let Danny do Danny's thing.
And like you said, Jake, they didn't force up a Huck to get it out of their own end zone. They worked it through their handlers until the Huck was actually a good viable option. And you've seen Danny Tridiak huck to Brad Hauser a lot, not as often the other way around, as now the Rainmakers hoping to put some pressure on the Stags. Stags in their vertical stack keeping it with the handlers. Not a ton of cutting out the back. There now is Fitzpatrick coming off the back there. Now we're getting into their vertical stack flow. A couple of nice yardage gainers off the back of the stack. Good pressure from the Rainmakers, limiting the dump options. Keeping the pressure on the line. McGinn reels it in nicely and then immediately launches up a hammer. Oh, but can't reel it in. Fitzpatrick trying. Can't get it.
Pushing up that far sideline left all the Rainmakers pushed over to that far side, thinking if you want to throw some giant crossfield hammer, go ahead. We'll take that risk. And that risk paid off for the Rainmakers.
Fitzpatrick was open, but McGinn, who had been toe-tapping the line, trying to keep it up, rushed that throw quite a bit, and it did not pay off for him. And now the Rainmakers' defensive line will try to work it upfield.
It's Miller with the disc, number 77. You'll see a lot of movement out of that man. Extremely athletic, and it's going to be a tough guy for Purston to pin down.
A timeout is called by Seattle, and they'll sub out their defensive line, who are able to pressure and force the turnover, bring in an offensive line to try and score this one.
That was really nice work by the defensive line. You saw right at the beginning on their D-line, they put in Chris Rupp for their opening D-line. That is typically an offensive player. He's been playing O for the Rainmakers the last year. But throwing him in on D maybe as a response to last week when they had so many opportunities for the D to score but just weren't able to convert.
Once you get that disc as a defensive line, it is crucial that you put pressure on the other team by punching it into the end zone. Seattle not able to do that well at all last game. So, yeah, like you said, Jake, Chris Rupp, a good pillar of the offensive line, or once nicely.
Absolutely. I haven't really noticed who's been guarding Hayes, but you've seen a lot of Stags. A lot of the orange set plays have started with Hayes, number 17, big player, good deep defender, good deep offender, coming out of the stack and trying to get open, and he's been looked off several times. I think it's been several different Rainmakers who've been guarding him and really doing a good job shutting him down. It's not typical that a Portland game doesn't have a lot of Hayes getting the disc, and this one they've really shut him down pretty well.
Yeah, the Stags have had to move through their handlers quite a bit before initiating their vertical offense. So kudos there to the Rainmakers D, adding some pressure.
Stags still up there.
Probably see here it's fan appreciation day for the Rainmakers home. In here more and more are starting to make a little bit of a ruckus in favor of their hometown Rainmaker team.
Rainmakers come on to take the field, and as you said, Dave, they have replaced their line, putting out McKibben getting the disc. McKibben, an offensive player. Clay Dewey-Valentine, very few Ds, and you see the D-line for the Portland Stags come out, see if they can't get this block.
Hauser comes in off the sideline, clears space. There's Breen. Clay Dewey-Valentine hesitated. Tridiak cleans up there. Dewey-Valentine well guarded. Tridiak had his back on that one. I'm not sure if Dewey-Valentine would have made it there. Up to Breen. Breen, a nice fake, sends one up. And McKibben able to reel it in over a chasing Stags defender. And the Rainmakers are able to score the upwinder for a break, tying the game at 5s.
5-5 as Rainmakers pull back. It's 2 breaks apiece. And it looks like that timeout paid off as they got their offensive set in. And that offense, as the Rainmakers always do, small throws, and you saw nothing more than 15 yards, nothing too crazy, and just work it in, throw it to the open person, get the disc in the end zone.
Breen sends up a nice backhand. I was worried it was going to float a little too much. It gave the defense a chance to catch up, but McKibben with a nice grab, making sure, and the Rainmakers reel it in for the goal. And as you said, Jake, it's a very good strategic move after getting a turnover to call that timeout if you have one and bring in the offensive line to finish it off. Rainmakers pull, and the Stags are chasing. The fans are into it now, looking to psych up the defense of their Rainmakers, and the Rainmakers have Portland back in their end zone. Double teams off the cutters. Purston with it now. Moves it up line.
Has to get up there.
McNally sends one up and over the head of his teammate, and it's shut down by the Rainmakers, and the defensive line will try to score here. Eddie Feely picks up the disc, sends one to an open Cam Bailey. A little lefty push pass. Moving it upfield. Cam Bailey open in the end zone. Doesn't get the look. Good pressure by the Stags defenders.
Really stuck.
Having to send one in. There's
Bailey.
Bailey again coming under. Neely. Blady hammer over to Bender for a Rainmakers break. And that's looking good for the Rainmakers. Some good momentum there.
That is Sleva. Sorry, that was Jesperson catching it in the end zone to bring the Rainmakers up 6-5 as they take their lead back. 1 point lead, one more break, and that's 3 in a row for the Rainmakers.
Jesperson, a nice big target there, able to reel in a nice little shot over the top, and the Rainmakers keeping their momentum alive. It's a game of runs, folks, so we'll see what the game brings here. But now the Rainmakers up 1.
One thing that the weather's bringing is a little more wind, as you see that flag flying proudly. It's becoming a little more of an upwind-downwind game.
That's right. The wind's picking up a little bit. And the fans, of course, making their presence known and psyching up their Rainmakers a little bit here. And the Rainmakers, nice pull going upwind. Stags will try and stop their run with a score. Centering here to Smith. Smith sends one up. Bjorklund's running deep. Let's see if Bjorklund can body. Klein gets up over the top. And no call. Nice pressure there by Klein.
No call. It looked like it's possible there was a little contact, but Bjorklund wasn't going to get the disc where he was anyway, and therefore the contact does not matter.
Bjorklund had position downfield, but not able to body out enough to get a shot at the disc. Feely to Rupp, back to Feely. Surveying the field. It's kind of a side pair horizontal stack. Feely in trouble. Has to send one across to nobody. Purston.
Purston diving with that D.
That wasn't going to make it anywhere anyway, but way to make sure, says Timmy Purston. And the Stags move it to Bjorklund on the line. Back out to Smith. Smith back to Bjorklund there.
You can hear the defense being chanted by the crowd as there's a blade to the back, and Timmy Purston gets his 100th career goal and assist on a break that he'll be happy with here in Seattle.
He was tiptoeing towards that 3-figure stat and tiptoes in the back of the end zone to reel it in. Nice little blade shot from Bjorklund to the back of the end zone. Timmy Purston with the goal.
That's 6-6.
And that ties the game at 6.
As Timmy Purston pulls in his 3rd digit. Catching it from longtime club teammate and now longtime professional teammate, Cody Bjorklund.
We've seen those two in many a play for the Portland team. And the momentum kind of balancing out here. Anybody's ball game at this point. Both teams have been on a little run. And now the Rainmakers will receive upwind. And it's their disc to lose here at this point with the offense going downwind.
You know, nothing new here. But for this season, so far, Stags have been up by 6 at the end of the game and up by 18. We'll see how they do in a tight game.
McKibben moves it over to Gusson. Gusson winds up, launches it to Hauser, but it's over in the middle of the field. Hauser able to reel it in. Over the defender. That's Davis who was there, but Hauser wanted it, and he got it.
Gusson lays it up. A little bit of trust there, just saying, Hauser, I'm going to float this up about 9-10 feet in the air and hope you can get there before the defenders does. And Hauser says, no problem. I'll bring it down for you, and we'll get our lead, 7-6 Rainmakers.
Gusson probably meant to keep it on the same third of the field as he was on when he threw it, but it floated in towards the middle, giving Davis a chance. But Hauser wanted it in his house and reels it in for the Rainmakers goal. And they'll pull up wind.
So far, you've seen Portland Stags, when they're scoring, they're usually throwing a disc where no Seattle defender could possibly get it, and their offense has to toe the line or catch something coming in zingy. But right now, the Rainmakers are just lofting it up and saying, hey, beat them in the air, and it's working.
So far, so good with the 50-50 balls. And Harmouche with a nice upwind pull. And we'll see the Stags initiating through McGinn, as they often do. Person out in the lane. Little in, little out. Good switch by the Rainmakers. And yet they send it to him anyway. Ents downfield gets in there. A good switch by the Rainmakers allowed Ents to pick up Person. I'm not sure that McGinn really saw that.
Yeah, that's right.
5 seconds left here, and they launch one up.
Play
Speaking of those 50-50 balls.
to 6-6.
Oh, Cam Bailey, it looked like trying to get up there. Good D from the Stags to shut it down and not allow a last-second goal by the Rainmakers.
Well, that'll bring that quarter to a close. 7-6, Rainmakers ahead. And Rainmakers up a break to take that.
The Rainmakers lead 7-6.
We've seen little runs by both teams, some good defensive pressure by both teams, and some great plays up in the air and a couple of nice bids out on the layout side of things here. A good start to this West Coast matchup.
Absolutely, as close as it can be after the first quarter. And one thing we've seen that we haven't seen in prior years is Rainmaker dominating the skies. This is new for Seattle. Seattle known as a small ball team.
They've got a lot of height on their team, and they're putting it to use. We've seen Klein getting up in there a little bit. Isaac Ents, of course, is a very tall player and uses his height very well. Cam Bailey, who was trying to get up there at the end, an athletic player, never shy on the efforts, both diving and jumping. And we've seen Hauser, also a good player in the air for the Rainmakers. We've seen him with a couple of nice grabs here. And, we're going to see some grabs in the air from Person. He's a great player downfield. Of course, McGinn is very tall, mostly a handler, but will get up there as well. Some good height and athleticism on both teams, but so far, like you say, Seattle coming down with more of the lofted shots than the Stags so far.
That's right. So far, we have seen Timmy Person in the end zone with the disc, but not skying people. Haven't seen much out of Fitzpatrick or Hayes or Jensen, Adamson. Some of these real monster, 6'2" to 6'6" cutters that broad shoulders can box people out, can get that disc in the air. But so far, Rainmakers have been on the better side of those air balls.
And that's lucky for them because they've been taking a little bit more of those 50-50 shots. Some of their long shots that they've taken haven't gone maybe quite as planned, or they're just feeling very confident in their abilities to get it out of the air. Whereas, like you said, the Stags, a little bit more pinpoint accuracy, finding those openings.
Not sure what Quarrel or Kingery and McKibben are telling their teams right now, but I wouldn't be too surprised to see changes out of both teams. Changes from the Stags because, of course, they are down or at least even, 7-6 as close as it'll be. And the last two games they've just swept up. And maybe something from Kingery and McKibben asking them to change it up because, as you said, those sky balls, you just don't want to rely on winning a 50-50 shot. You want to rely on catching it where the defense had no chance. If you did it 10 times, you would have scored 10 times.
What I'd really like to see out of the Rainmakers is initiating their offense more through those two middle players in the horizontal stack. That's what a horizontal stack is designed to do. Credit to the Stags for putting pressure on those cutters, but I really want to see the Rainmakers cleaning that up and initiating their offense through those two middle cutters. They've had to go to the sideline far too often for running what so far they've run exclusively a horizontal stack and have not been able to use it to its fullest potential so far.
You think you've seen so far they've run a horizontal stack and then immediately the disc goes to the sideline, which is, of course, not where they want it.
Exactly. So if they can initiate that through the middle, they might be able to get those 3-4 continuation passes rather than having to sort of go handler, 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 huck, which has been working okay for them. But again, especially for the longevity of the team through the season, you want to see them find their rhythm on offense.
Yep, you'll notice Woodside going in as a defender for Stags. Woodside, one of the giants on the Stags. And I wonder if he's going in, looking across, not seeing anyone, maybe Gussin, who is a particular monster on the Rainmakers, but they just keep winning those tall balls and put somebody in there who can challenge those deep throws.
Well, and the Stags are pulling downwind, so it's nice to have a tall guy hanging back in case one of those hucks does float. And, of course, if they do get the turn, Woodside a likely target for any deep shots the Stags may take on the counterattack.
Stags finding themselves in a hole for the first time this season.
Nice pull from the Stags here to start off the second quarter of play. Disc centers to McKibben. There's that flat stack. Hauser, one thing that you just saw is a pinching off from the handlers, not allowing that easy shot downfield to initiate the offense. So again, credit the Stags. Nice bid there, but Hauser able to get the disc. Penner diving by. Disc moves over to Dewey Valentine. The whole stack a little deep downfield, having to run through the handlers again. There's Woodside, hand up in the lane. And the Stags looking to strike quickly on the counterattack, and there it is, into the end zone, finding Cole, and good pressure from the Stags, but what led to that was the entire Rainmakers stack getting too deep, forcing Dewey Valentine having to throw to a window that was not there.
Diagnosis correct. That was all of the downfield cutters off the screen. And the Stags, you know, they're good at this game. They're professional players. They know when you're that deep, your only option is to come under. You saw Woodside, who usually can guard underneath, just standing underneath, and the throw comes up. He just picks it off. He knows where it's going.
Right to him, and the Stags able to settle down, move the disc quickly, and finding Cole on a nice little in shot up the middle. The Rainmakers not able to recover after their turnover to get the defensive pressure on. And a break for the Stags coming into the second quarter, tying up the game 7-7.
7-7, as you see the same line coming out for the Stags. Couple differences, though. They've changed up a little bit on Seattle side.
Pull goes up from Rice. The Stags will look to build their defensive pressure. Much of the same offensive line here. Tridiak open across the middle. He's going to loft it if he can. There goes Hauser, but a nice open shot there is Breen. And that's a good flow to start for the Rainmakers. Little 1-2, 1-2 down the field. Nice little shimmy shake from McKibben, gets it up line. Nothing there for the continuation. We've got a player downfield, and the ref calls time. And Danny Tridiak, slow to get up, shake it off. It looks like he's okay, but a little shell-shocked there.
I wonder what happened on the defense there that allowed Danny to get open underneath. As you said, they finally ran their set play through the middle, but that was a defender letting him get it.
Well, and Tridiak did a great job of coming from the sideline through the middle. Hauser, a lot of touches here today. Interesting choice. You could have thrown the backhand, but chose the high flick and gave Bjorklund a chance to get there. Breen, the intended receiver, kind of checking both shoulders there. Hauser would have been better to fake the flick and go around with the backhand.
You want the offensive player to know where to catch the disc, and when that disc is just floating at 10 feet, you're never really sure where it's going to come down, where are my hips supposed to be, where am I supposed to go get it, and instead Bjorklund says, I know where to go.
Bjorklund gets a nice little break, and there's two
goodness.
Stags open deep. Oh, turning the corner is Bowie for Frainer. Frainer almost giving away the easy. Bjorklund got a nice inside-out flick shot, sends a great deep shot to Frainer. Frainer, a backhand that floated enough for Bowie, who was open. Frainer sends it over his head. Bowie turns the corner and gets there for the Stags break.
You wonder if Frainer and Bowie saw that Bjorklund was getting the disc in the power position. That man has throws for days, and they both just take off deep and say, hey, you put it up wherever you throw it. I'm sure it's going to hit us in stride like it does. And then the only question is, can you finish it off?
And barely, but yes. And the Stags coming in, taking control of this second quarter. 2-0 so far for the Stags in the quarter, and the lead 8-7 as they're going to pull downwind.
You hear Ben Beener, Drew Lockhart, and Isaac Entz on the side trying to get the crowd back into it, as the crowd's been awfully quiet ever since that momentum stopped, and they've started trading points again with Portland Stags.
It's a hard thing managing the chicken and the egg of crowd motivation and team intensity. The crowd often responding to a team's energy, and then, of course, fueling it further. If you can get the crowd into it to inspire the team's energy, well, that's a good hometown crowd.
You bet. You know, of course, a goal of the offense is to make it a boring game. We'll see if Feely starts with those small throws that make it look so easy.
Neely getting an every other here from the handlers. And the Rainmakers are able to keep it in the middle of the field so far, which they have not always been able to do. Feely with a bending backhand across field to Neely for the goal. And the Rainmakers shut down a short Stags run with some nice movement through the middle of the field and a nice bending backhand from Feely.
Feely knows his throws, apparently, because that looked a little scary from my perspective. But it turns out D was nowhere near, gave a bid, couldn't get there. And it looks like Bender didn't even have to move for that.
And that was Neely on the receiving end. And there's a reason why they call him Touchy-Feely. A nice touch on that blade-ish backhand from Feely. Getting some high fives coming off the field. Putting that touch in Touchy-Feely.
I never knew that before. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, no problem. I'm a wealth of knowledge. So the Rainmakers with the score and evening up the game there. Looking to pull down win now.
Game even at 8. As you see those pulls starting to get a little edge on them. The wind dying down a little, but it's still going right to left and away from the screen. It's a little to the far sideline.
Nearly a shimmy shake and turf ball. That's not going to help. He puts his hands over his face. He knew he screwed up. Now he's got a mark.
Milius.
Harmouche.
Got to stop Harmouche here.
Harmouche centers to Rupp. Rupp, little fancy footwork over to Bailey. Bailey back to Harmouche. Again, the Rainmakers need to tighten up their downfield cutters. Wow. Rupp able to reel it in. It's a tight window. Move it downfield to Stacy. Stacy has no easy shots on the side there. Looking to move it in. And a nice sharp flick. A bounce.
Whoa!
A goal.
Whoa!
Klein with the cleanup for the Rainmakers. Sends it up in the air and archers it down.
As Ben Beener, I'm not sure who gets the assist there. I think Johnny Stacy earns half an assist.
Oh, that's Beener, not Klein. Excuse me. Yeah, Beener who cleans it up. A little Mac. I don't think that's how they drew it up, Jake.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. That's a zinger coming in from Johnny Stacy.
It was a nice inside-out shot. Just couldn't hang on. Little Mac attack. And the Rainmakers
As Jesperson
score the break.
bops it, and Beener cleans up the trash.
And
Earning
Melius,
a timeout.
Yeah. Melius feeling it after turfing that one on the sideline. Rainmakers doing a good job of capitalizing on what is an unforced error from the Stags.
Rainmakers taking the lead. And we are proud to have a new sponsor, Point Six. Point Six Socks, the official sponsor of Major League Ultimate. You can check out www.point6.com for their full line of performance merino wool socks.
I do love some merino wool socks. So a timeout, both teams talking strategy. Some good energy from both teams, a little back and forth so far in this quarter. The Stags coming out strong into the second quarter, and now the Rainmakers with a little boppity bip and some momentum shift as the fans are excited to see what the Rainmakers D will bring when they come out of this huddle.
I think they're also excited for Andrew Takahashi giving away a Rainmakers 206 Ultimate t-shirt.
Whatever it takes to get them excited, you know. They came out to have a good time. A beautiful sunny Seattle day.
Lots of folks here in the Rainier Beach Stadium for Fan Appreciation Day, watching their home team of the Seattle Rainmakers take on Portland Stags, doing a mulligan of last week, where, of course, opener, the Rainmakers fell to the Stags in Portland by 6. Rainmakers seemed not too worried about it, and Stags also didn't seem to come in here too confident, even coming off an 18-point win, unprecedented, I believe, in MLU against Vancouver last night. They knew that it'd be a battle, and they came in saying, no, we're just going to play our game, and we know that the Rainmakers are going to improve and adapt to our strategies. And so we're excited to see what they bring.
And, of course, tough to come into any doubleheader, so even though they had the big win against Vancouver, they had to re-energize to come in and play another one here in Seattle. Little West Coast tour for Portland. And anybody's ball game here just into the second quarter of play.
You know, we'd love to see a little more out of Topher Davis this game. Last time they played Seattle, Davis was just a monster on D. He was involved in 5 of their 9 blocks. And that's really what allowed Portland to win, of course, is getting the score when you're on defense, those breaks. Davis has not been as involved this game, but, of course, Seattle just hasn't been giving them the ball as much.
Some good pressure we've seen from the Stags, forcing the Rainmakers to go through their sideline. But, yeah, only a couple of layout defensive bids from either team here, as the offenses with mostly unforced errors here rather than blocks.
One thing you're not seeing from the Rainmakers today is Khalif El-Salam. He is out for the day. He'll be back next week. But El-Salam is, of course, one of these pivotal players for the Rainmakers. He's involved in a huge number of goals, a huge number of assists, a defensive monster, but he's also gives the disc to the other team a lot. He's a very high-risk, very flashy player.
High risk, high reward, and one of the better celebrators after a score that I've seen in the league. A hometown hero, certainly, here in Seattle, but away for the day, and the Rainmakers doing all right here. Deep roster without Khalif, who has been an instrumental player for them and certainly topping the highlight reel over the last year or so for them.
You're right. I'm not sure who's going to step up to take the mantle of end zone dance.
Yeah,
from El-Salam.
It's yet to be seen here. Beener, after catching that little bop the last time, threw the disc up in the air and pretended to shoot it down with an imaginary arrow.
That was solid.
It's solid, but I wouldn't call it a dance.
And it's not El-Salam level, that's for sure.
It's not. They do need to work on that. And wow, drop pull, and that's the momentum that the Rainmakers were looking for.
Will Shaw tries to catch the pull, drops it, and you're going to have Eddie Feely picking it up on the end zone for a possible break for the Rainmakers.
A little shimmy, a little shake from Cam Bailey, who gets the goal and goes up for the dunk. Boom. Cam Bailey excited about that one. Feely to Bailey. A momentum shift after the timeout. Again, utilizing that timeout to pull from half field as best as you possibly can, eh?
Well, a question. What was Will Shaw doing trying to catch that? That was a very blady, tough throw, and the wind's coming over the top of that disc, which makes it, pretty hard to catch.
He probably should have taken a step back and knocked it down after the bounce. You could almost see in his body language there the unsureness. He's like, should I catch it? Should I not? If you're thinking that, you should not.
This is the football. If you're in doubt, throw your hand up, take the safety catch.
That's right. And the Rainmakers inspiring the crowd to get right behind them with some momentum, and they'll try and keep it going if they can on a little defensive run.
Rainmakers have pulled ahead 10-8 as the hometown takes the lead.
Nice big Blady backhand pull. Rolls into the end zone.
Letting that one roll. Learned their lesson.
McGinn looks to initiate the offense. Back through to Smith. Smith and McGinn with the disc. The stack is a jumble. I wouldn't call it a vertical stack. I wouldn't call it a horizontal stack. I wouldn't really even call it a stack. But they're able to move it up well. Little give and go with Person. And a flick shot downfield. Is Adamson open. Klein's chasing. Klein gets there. Swats it away in the corner.
Wow.
Adamson letting it hang long enough for Klein to catch up. Great D, Evan Klein.
That outside in going away from us, away from the camera, is catching the wind a bit. Let it float enough, and Klein running out of space between the end zone and the defender. Klein manages to get there and bat it away.
Adamson, I think, could have gone after it a little harder. Maybe didn't hear Klein's footsteps. Chris Rupp now with it, looking downfield. A nice little shot into Neely. Only two players downfield for the Rainmakers. Many handlers, all three of them cutting back for the same shot. That's hard to assess there for Rupp. Feely gets it, launches one to Klein, who had the D on the other end. Chasing is Adamson, trying to recover, and it's a D on both ends of the field for that matchup. Adamson able to save a little face and D that one. Feely trying to give Klein double happiness.
Last time maybe Adamson had the disadvantage of watching the line and not realizing Klein was behind him, and this time Klein knew Adamson was there, but Adamson got the better of him.
And Feely putting a little too much float on that one. Klein did have a step, but gave Adamson a chance to catch up. And Portland will try to come back in another unforced error. Adamson having a tough go there, and it rolls another 10 yards. Feely will try to put this one in. A little lefty flip, and a double team contact they didn't need it because Bailey was left wide open in the end zone. See what the ref calls here.
It's still going to be going back.
Yeah,
to Neely.
Neely kind of upset that they even called that contact foul because he was maneuvering to get a shot into Bailey, who was open. And Neely sends one in to Klein, but there's a call. I'm not sure
That'll
that the
come back
play
as
had
well.
actually started.
Not sure if that one was actually tapped in. As it looks like the officials will discuss.
Neely,
that was a double. That was not a really on purpose double team. I think it was just they're struggling to find out who to guard after that quick turnover. Two people end up on, I believe that was Neely.
Yeah.
And so Neely is excited to have two people on him, doesn't want to foul. He just wants to find who's open and hit him.
And Bailey was wide open, just 10 yards in front of him in the end zone. And Neely now with a third chance at the end zone here. Since that last one didn't count, the play was not actually initiated. Now some fakes. Neely with a lefty flip over to Cam Bailey, and they do find the connection. Cam Bailey with another goal, and looks to go dunk it. Remembers he already just dunked it, and we'll let that one lie. No Khalif El Salam level end zone celebration yet, Jake.
They're waiting for it. Second half, I think we'll see it coming.
Well, and you don't want to overshadow it. You know, El Salam not able to join him here today. Maybe that's something that they save for him when he's here.
I mean, maybe El Salam's going to tell Bailey he just needs a little more practice catching it in the end zone, more opportunities to try his trade.
More goals would help, more practice opportunities, certainly. Maybe a night out dancing, too. El Salam certainly has some moves and could do some teaching that way. But Bailey does reel in quite a few goals. Very athletic player and very aggressive player, really a competitor, and reels that one in there from Neely.
Not seen so much of previously, but while the Stags have been doing a great defensive effort, they seem to be giving the ball back, as you saw a turf by Melius and just then a turf by Adamson, just giving gifts to their opponents.
Stags now facing a little deficit, 11-8 Rainmakers. Stags working it cross field well, but the Rainmakers doing a good job of pressuring downfield, although leaving there Smith wide open to Purston. It's kind of a funky little defensive set here with some openings. Bjorklund now with it. Purston open in the end zone, but leaving it shy, and Klein with another D. Credit the D to Klein. Bjorklund not giving Purston a chance at that one, leaves it up short, and Klein making sure with the swat.
You are welcome to credit that D to Klein, but Ben Biener's the one who got it.
Well, I've mixed those guys up a couple times. Both athletic and dynamic players.
No
Good
surprise
job, Biener.
saying D by either one.
Feely puts it up. Trey Miller gets bodied out there and can't come down with it. Good D by Davis. Over to McGinn, back to Davis with an open Hayes. Hayes upfield to Smith. Good movement by the Stags.
Defense
Stags
not
to
really
a
waking up
wide
yet.
open Timmy Purston. Don't know who's supposed to be guarding him. Oh, that's Biener. Swung over. A lot of open guys here for Portland. I don't know if it's just the Rainmakers struggling or cheating off. Another little give and go here.
Whoa!
Hayes sends one in past a diving mark to Melius.
Jesperson tried for that, but I agree with you totally. After Miller went down a little bit and it looked like Davis pulled out that D, I'm not sure why the Seattle Rainmakers didn't get back on defense. They looked caught at the wheel.
Leaving tons of guys wide open, both for the swings, which you'll allow some swings, but a lot of open guys downfield in the middle, which is not where you want to give them the disc.
You want a pressured swing. You want them to have to back up, catch the disc facing backwards, turn around, and the mark's on them. Not catching the disc where they can scope out the field before they catch it and know where they're going to throw to next.
And it could have been just maybe a young D squad for the Rainmakers, playing a little catch-up, and Portland able to take advantage of the openings and punch one in. And 11-9 now. The Rainmakers still up a couple, but the momentum back in the Stags' court for now.
As Portland takes a timeout, might be welcomed by the Rainmakers who need a little energy. They could go for Skippy. Skippy, the official peanut butter of the Seattle Rainmakers, made with the funniest peanuts ever, Skippy Yippy.
I had no idea that there were funny peanuts.
Apparently they choose only the best. Only the best for Skippy peanut butter.
I did not know.
It is true for these afternoon games. There is such a thing as, warm, full stomach, siesta time.
Yeah.
And you got to get out of it. You got to get that energy high.
You want to turn that siesta into a fiesta, party time on the field. Again, with maybe a good end zone celebration.
That's what we need El Salam for here.
God. Well, the Rainmakers going to be receiving here, looking to clean up their offense. We haven't seen a ton of aggressive defensive pressure from either team. Again, a lot of unforced errors in this game rather than blocks. A couple of blocks, but some of those blocks even I would call unforced errors on the thrower end.
I'm not even seeing a lot of practicing some different things early in the season where you're not too worried about the game itself. You're thinking about, hey, does our offensive zone work? Does our defensive, cup work? You're trying to play out more strategies for later in the season. And so far, you're just seeing man-O, man-D, and frankly, lackluster play calls.
I agree with you, Jake. We have seen a couple of good defensive plays in terms of the Stags cheating off the handlers to prevent the downfield throws. That's a strategy that's working for them. We can expect to continue seeing that, and the Rainmakers need to adjust and find those little chisels through the openings to punish that cheating off of the handlers by those handlers taking yards. We've seen a couple of double teams from both teams putting some pressure on. Mixed results, but again, that's a defensive strategy, utilizing the ability to double team in the MLU. And but agreed, neither team has shown any zone here. It's been man-to-man pressure. And again, I would love to see a little bit more pressure from both teams, putting the onus on the offense to really work.
Yeah, one thing Seattle's done historically very successfully, especially against teams like Portland and Vancouver, is to have some kind of transition defense where you send two flyers down, running down, put pressure on those first throw or two, and then after 3-4 throws, you transition into man. That's been a very standard defensive set out of Seattle, and instead we're seeing pure man defense. I don't know if the coaching staff, Kingery and McKibben, are calling this, or if that's just what the players have decided to do.
Well, we'll see how it develops. Certainly over the game, if it changes at all, but over the season as well. I agree the zone-to-man transition is a great defensive call because it takes away the initial pull play call. And here we'll see if the third time's a charm for the short pull. Wow, nice grab by Brink there. From a really blady. Oh, wow,
Whoa.
That's a great D. A flying Woodside comes in for the block right on the goal line, and see if the Stags can punch it in here. Almost forcing it. Sending up a scuba. Great D by Gussin. D for D. Stags wanted a foul call. Gussin takes off.
Both frankly ill-advised. That scuba into the end zone is not what you need. Just dump it to somebody behind you. Get a swing around and reset.
He'd been really looking for that push pass, hoping to score that way. And when he didn't get it, he had time pressure and had to put up something, and that scuba was what he chose. Gussin winds up and launches one to Tridiak, who's open, not going to make it quite to the end zone.
I bet he's going to find the end zone this time. Or Tridiak showing the Stags what they should have done. Just dump it, take it easy.
Oh, yes, wow. What a play by Tridiak, who leaves it for McKibben, goes in the end zone. McKibben, an ill-advised high push pass, giving the Stags a chance to get a hand on it, but then Tridiak reeling it in for the goal.
Oh, you can almost see the stat sheet where Penner has a D, and then somebody has to get out an eraser and say, oh, I don't know how that didn't work.
Well, hope they have an eraser. Tridiak able to reel it in for the goal. A little herky-jerky point that time. Woodside with a big block, and then the Stags give it away with a nice deep by Gussin, and then a little tip-tap topper for Tridiak to score that one. And Seattle retaining their lead, 12-9.
Timeout Seattle, as I wonder if Kingery and McKibben are saying, come on, guys, we gotta stop this. Just because the Stags gave us that, poorly advised throw, that scuba into the end zone, doesn't mean we need to do the same. And I wonder if Brink's getting a talking to trying to catch that after we saw what happened to Will Shaw as he tried to catch one of those half-point pulls.
He does a sliding blade catch pull. That's not what they teach you, I don't think. But, hey, Brink made the catch. That's the important thing.
This is the cutting edge of the game. Maybe that's what they're teaching now.
The cutting edge, indeed. Brink able to hang on
And we have a birthday celebration in the crowd.
Happy
as
birthday.
Andrew Takahashi playing a little crowd control, laughing up there. And the teams don't look, well, I see Miller laughing, but so far it's a lot of serious talk. It looks like the teams are not thrilled with that last point or the last couple points and want to change some things about the game to head into the end of the first half, about 8 minutes remaining on the clock.
A little sloppy from both teams, just like we saw it out of the gate in this game. The very first point was some crazy turnovers by both teams, and we saw a little bit of that this last point. Again, good defensive pressure, but some questionable choices on the goal line, exactly where you want to, reel it in, take a deep breath, and find the easy 100% shot.
It's always something difficult for a coach to have to say is just because it's working, it doesn't mean it was a good idea.
Yeah, that's right. But it's so easy for the players to be like, hey, but it's working.
Yeah, look at the stat sheet. And say, well, I almost wrote that down as a block, and then I had to move it into the assist column. I didn't think he was going to catch it.
There was a lot of eraser marks on that stat
That's
sheet.
right.
Clean it up, guys.
That's right. That's why you don't work in pen.
Note for all you at home keeping stats. Keep a pencil handy. A lot of bobbles, a lot of max.
There have been almost all of those circus plays have gone in Seattle's favor. There was Jesperson diving for the disc, max it up, and then Biener comes, cleans up, and gets the disc.
Yep.
There was Tridiak essentially being D'd by Penner,
Yep.
and then undeed himself by catching it.
That's right. Yeah, good focus by Tridiak. It is hard to reel those in after it's been hit, so a good veteran play by Tridiak to remain focused and bring that one in. And Seattle, you don't want to count on the circus. It's fun, keeps the crowd involved, and it's a little bit of a sigh of relief. But it's time for both these teams to clean up and stop giving away so many unforced errors.
That's right. One thing you saw Tridiak do really well that I would have liked to see the Stags do when they were on the goal line is, I know you're excited. I know you have the disc. I know you're 1 yard out of the end zone. Just take a breath, turn around, and throw it to whoever's open, even if that's 10 yards behind you.
The dump swing, always effective, especially in vertical stack and especially on the end zone. To move it laterally on the end zone gives you so many more points of attack. We saw the Stags, the player who had it in the middle of the field was just looking to force it, that little push pass. He's like, I'm telling you, you're open, just cut for it. He didn't cut for it, and he had to throw that scoober. Move the ball, just move the disc quickly. The dumps and swings, something will open up. You don't have to get too creative on the end zone line if you're running a good end zone offense.
It's one reason you see a lot of players who understand soccer do quite well at Ultimate is it's really a game of possession. It's not a game of aggression. It's not a game of you're either moving forward or you're failing. It's a game of you need to keep the ball, you need to keep it in your control, and you need the defense to not be sure where you're going.
It's a game that favors the offense. As an offensive player, you get to decide where you're cutting. And 10 seconds is plenty of time for a thrower to find a receiver. We haven't seen any stalls called here yet today. It's a game of possession. The offense, you just got to keep that disc. You'll score. Defensively, you do need a little aggression because, again, it does favor the offense. You want to hype up and get out there. We've seen a couple more diving block attempts here in the second quarter.
Old rule, Chili O Fiery D. I would love to see Woodside being put in on D more. Obviously, the Stags putting in their offensive line right now with Purston, who has not seen too many points this game, though still made it to 100. With Björklund, of course, with Hayes. But Woodside has been doing a phenomenal job on defense. Getting blocks. Those are, as you said, not easy in this game. It's a game that favors the offense. But let's see Woodside back in there, able to bring the Stags back into it. As right now, they are down 3.
A great block last time he was out there, had Woodside. And yet another timeout leading to a shortened field for the pulling team. The Rainmakers here looking to put pressure on. Last time they did this, the Stags dropped the pull, so we can expect a Blady backhand. If it were me, I would throw a Blady backhand.
So you're saying if it works, do it again?
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy. This one, uncatchable anyway, rolls out the back. And we'll see some defensive pressure out of the gate here from the Rainmakers. some scrambling Stags looking to initiate the offense. Nice grab. As the Stags try to find their formation, it moves over to the sideline to Shaw. Shaw to Bjorklund. Big thrower for them. Little stutter step cut downfield, and he puts it up. It's sailing out. McNally, the intended receiver.
And Harmouche able to get there.
Harmouche finds the position. Bjorklund hung that up a little too long, allowing Harmouche to really get a read on it. And McNally not able to get that same read.
You notice for a moment there, Harmouche and McNally just running with each other, not really sure where the disc was, just thinking, oh no.
Wow, quick turn and score as the disc goes into Shaw. Hayes finds it in the lane. A tough shot from the Rainmakers goes up to two receivers. There's a defender there. That's Hayes. Grabs it and flips it in. Not what the Rainmakers were looking for on their counterattack.
I'm not sure if Shaw just read that line and ran in there. Sorry, that was Hayes. I'm not sure if Hayes saw the line and ran in there and jumped it, or if that was his defender, but it seemed like the throw was right to him.
Well, the throw, I think, went – you couldn't tell who the intended receiver was. There were two of them there. Hayes was on one of those guys. And, yeah, that disc did go right to him. He just grabs it, flips it into Shaw. And though Bjorklund's huck hung a little too long and got D'd, the Stags are able to get possession back and get a goal to bring it within a goal. And there's a timeout on the field.
This is enough timeouts that people are wondering, and the Stags encouraging boos from the crowd as the Rainmakers decide to slow the game down once again.
Well, again, looking to pull from half field, a strategy that has worked for both teams, forcing turnovers, I think, 100% of the time that it's been done.
Actually, you might be right there.
That last time the Stags were able to score, but the half field pull proving very effective for both teams. The Rainmakers forcing even a dropped pull, but I believe 100% of the time that it's been done so far, the half field pull has led to a turnover. So
well, it might be working for the teams, but it is not working for the crowd, who is a little frustrated.
Timeouts, not what the fans came to watch.
But we are happy to announce another sponsor. You have Innova. Innova is proud to support Major League Ultimate and its incredible athletes. As the official disc of the MLU, the Innova Pulsar has quickly become the disc of choice at Ultimate's highest level. Visit innovadiscs.com to find a dealer near you.
Stags and the Rainmakers talking things over in the timeout.
You're mentioning Timmy Purston having his colorful clothes on. Not only does he have that Canterbury jersey, but he has managed to find a parasol hat with every color that would make a clown blush.
And a bit of a clown himself, at least in his style choices, is Timmy Purston. A playful and energetic player. Monumental for the Stags on the field, and a good teammate on the sideline as well, and keeping the fans into it with a rainbow umbrella hat. Why not?
Rainbow umbrella hat, that's right. He heard he was coming to see the Rainmakers and didn't realize that it gets sunny here too.
Well, luckily an umbrella works for both sun and rain. So the Stags retake the field, looking to pull it half field here, and hopefully keep that streak alive with turnovers. And it looks like Rice will be pulling for the Stags. (12-11) Rainmakers. Rainmakers looking to expand their lead here to 2.
And you're going to see that half-court pull, see if it's going to work, which so far you're right. I think it's been 100%.
Well, and again, if it were up to me, I would encourage a Blady backhand.
Big fan of the Blady backhand. We'll see if Rice can hear you, if you can send him your ESP, or if he just knows what's good for him.
We'll see. Rice, do you know what's good for you? This is not an advertisement for Rice. I encourage you to eat bread and pasta as well. Rice lands it out of bounds. That is not what you're looking for in half half-field pull, and that could be the end of the streak here as the Rainmakers will get to take it at the brick mark. We'll see.
You know, with these half-field pulls, what every team's trying to do is make it uncatchable and roll out the back. That allows the defense to get set up and forces the offense to take it from the very back of their own end zone, a very dangerous play, and you're really going for a block before they get it out of the end zone.
Now McKibben will start it from the brick mark. Ostergaard takes off deep, comes back in. Hauser and Ostergaard centering the horizontal stack. Hauser finds Ostergaard in the middle. Ostergaard questions the launch and then launches to Tridiak, who's there. Two-handed catch in the end zone. Goal Rainmakers as Cole flies by. Tridiak hangs on, and the Rainmakers score. There's some discussion on the field.
They are calling it a turnover. Tridiak is not sure why.
Looks like they called Tridiak not in, and then there was a spike immediately after the catch from Tridiak. Lesson to Tridiak, check to the ref to make sure it's a goal before the spike.
Here's the shot to Lafferty.
Tons of Rainmakers there.
And it looks like the sideline's going to do their job for them.
Hauser got position there. Lafferty, a nice big target, but the throw goes off sidelong.
Also, a little tip of the hat to Lafferty on defense. You know, he was guarding their deep ISO, which was Brad Hauser's, been catching a lot of goals. Did a great job blocking him deep, and then when he tried to come under, put his body in the way, so Hauser turns under and just hits Lafferty right in the chest. Can't move at all, ruins his momentum.
Dewey Valentine, great fake, moving it off the line to McKibben, now Tridiak. McKibben finds it. A nice swing, great throw to space for Ostergaard. Can't quite get in the end zone, but a nice grab. Little flippy dip to Hauser, and the Rainmakers get the disc back and score to take their lead up to 2. 13-11, we think. But a nice counterattack there. The swing throw that we have encouraged here from the booth. The dump and swing towards the end zone. Again, you're going to find those great openings, and that time Ostergaard had tons of room. Couldn't quite tow himself into the end zone, but then Hauser with a continuation. A nice, easy goal for the Rainmakers after a couple of turnovers. Of course, Tridiak catching it on the line and spiking it for the turnover. Keeping my stat of half-court pulls,
right.
half-field pulls leading to turnovers 100% of the time.
That's right.
Tridiak really helping me out.
He did you a solid there.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Stags looking for a deep shot down the line, and it doesn't come back in, and the Rainmakers
Difficult
score.
deep shot down the line to a defender or to an offensive player running it down that same line. Even if it were in bounds, you had 3 Rainmaker jerseys right there. And it's just a tough catch, that disc coming over your shoulder.
Mm-hmm. So the Stags will take it at the brick. They're running a side vertical stack. So Klein cheats into the middle, which is wise, and they run it to the side of the stack. It's called a side stack flood. Looking down that line, Fitzpatrick finds Bjorklund. Back to Shaw. Guarded on the line well. McGinn sends a hammer into the fray. Wow, almost caught.
Time was running out
by
there.
Hayes, but
as the first half comes to a close, Rainmakers up 3. And that was Bjorklund, I think, didn't realize just how little time was left on the clock. As you see a hammer that doesn't even quite make it to the end zone, just trying to shoot for any last-ditch effort.
That's right. McGinn sends that hammer over. To close out the half, the Rainmakers get the D and retain the lead. Seattle home team Rainmakers closing out the first half of play. Welcome back. Getting ready here for the second half of play as the hometown Seattle Rainmakers lead 13-10 over their I-5 corridor rivals, the Portland Stags. 13-10 is the score. There's been runs from both teams. The Rainmakers retaining the lead coming into the second half. And a long half, a lot of timeouts from both teams. We've seen them utilizing the half-field pull. When you call a timeout after scoring, you get to pull from half-field, and it's been an effective methodology for both teams. Jake, what are you looking at for both of these teams coming in out of the second half?
What I want to see is some more forced turnovers. Even though those pulls from half-field have been successful, I think it's been a lot of success due to really the offense beating themselves. The offense setting up too deep for the Rainmakers. And on the Stag side, the offense just tends to be throwing some shots that I don't think are necessary, trying to jam it into the end zone or trying to hit difficult throws on the same third of the field, instead of just moving the ball and making it easy on the offense, make the defense work for the breaks instead of giving them the disc.
Looking for better shots and some dump swing action. We have seen some forced throws, and we've also seen just some rushed throws, some turf passes, and some that are hanging too long, giving the defense a chance. So from Jake's mouth to your ears, looking for more forced turnovers. Hopefully we'll see some exciting blocks from either or both teams here as the Stags are preparing to pull downwind to the Rainmakers, who have the lead, 3-point lead, coming into the second half.
We're going to probably see the Rainmakers do what they usually do, which is coming out with 3 back, 4 spread, and a spread offense with a set play, which so far the Stags defense has proved up to the challenge, stopping those first throws.
Dewey Valentine reels it into McKibben. Hauser streaking across. The disc moves across all the way to Brink. Brink hanging onto it on the line, moves it back into McKibben. Strong position in the center of the field. Hauser able to get open under. 2 Rainmakers take off deep. Gussin open across the middle.
Wow!
But a great D. Gussin hangs on after Davis with a fly-by D. Maxed it. Good effort there. Great effort by Davis, and then Gustin hanging on. Tridiak slots it in. This time, Davis not going to mack it. He's going to swat it down. And Tridiak looking a little ambitious there, trying to sneak one into Gussin.
This has been the story of Portland today, which is they got to get 2 Ds for every D that actually gets a turnover.
And now Portland initiating their offense downfield. There's Minershagen. Minershagen finds Woodside. Moves it up to Frainer. Centers back to Cole. Long ball there. Woodside open on the side and catches it on the line. Nice big shot there to Woodside to start the scoring off for Portland here in the second half.
Well, it's my wish came true. You had Davis going through, getting what should have been a D on Gussin, just like you saw before, what should have been a D on Tridiak, what should have been a D. That's the story of Portland this day. And right there you had Davis get what should have been a D and then get the D, forcing those turnovers.
And Minershagen with a great flick shot down the flick sideline, and Woodside, a nice big target, able to toe the line there, keep it in bounds. First goal of the second half going to Portland after Seattle gets D, retains possession there. Gussin gets the second chance, and then Tridiak just kind of forces one in. You could tell Davis was going to be hungry for it, having gotten a D that wasn't actually a D. That second time he does get it, knocks it into the turf, and Portland fights back to score.
A little surprised that the Stags here, after seeing Woodside, who's been great on defense in this first half, just caught the score right there. And they're pulling him off and letting other folks play deep. If I were Quarrel, I think I'd just say Woodside, stay in there and get us back into this game.
Well, we'll see if their plan pays off here, as the Rainmakers often initiating their offense with a cut across the middle. There's Hauser. Doesn't get it the first time, but then shifts his cut and does find it. McKibben lofts one up to Ostergaard, has a height advantage and position, and able to bring it in with Dan Shaw flying by, not able to get the D. A nice lazy-looking huck from McKibben, floats one up to Ostergaard, able to bring it in over the diving Shaw, and the Rainmakers with a quick strike back, 1-1 here in the second half, and the Rainmakers up 14-12.
I think Shaw's a little disappointed there. It looked like he slowed down, ready for his big 3 steps for the big jump, slowed down and watched the disc pick up a little wind and float a little further than he thought. So he slowed down, then sped back up and ended up having to dive instead of getting his full vertical.
Yeah, and I misspoke. The score is actually 14-11. Came out of that first half, 13-10. Both teams have scored one. 14-11 now as Harmouche, a frequent puller for the Rainmakers defensive line, sends one down. And good pressure there out of the gate from the Rainmakers. And Smith not able to find his intended receiver there of Hayes. And a quick turnover.
Almost
Again,
able to get Timmy Purston to dive for it, but didn't quite bounce it up as much as Jesperson did in that first quarter for the Rainmakers.
Another unforced error here, giving the Rainmakers a chance for the first break of the second half. Feely sends one up the middle. Harmouche back to Feely. High backhand, tough throw in the wind, finds Rupp. Rupp on the backhand sideline. Feely, a little shimmy shake, gets open eventually, but wow! Not there. Hayes, great catch block on the sideline.
Hayes catches that.
To Bjorklund. We've seen Bjorklund throw a hammer from this position before. This time, a Blady flick out of the hands of his intended receiver there. Not able to connect.
We see Portland getting incredible blocks, forcing D's. And part of that is, as you mentioned much earlier, that the Rainmakers are setting up their horizontal stack too far deep, but then the Rainmakers are not really earning their blocks back. They're just being given the disc by Portland.
Bjorklund trying to find Seamer, but puts it out of reach. He got his hands on it, but not able to catch it. And now the Rainmakers will try for it. Sending one out in front. Hayes tries to get there, but Neely able to find position and hang on. And the Rainmakers, a nice couple of quick shots up the flick sideline, finding Neely for the goal.
Ben Beener, number 15, throws 15 for Rainmakers. 15-11 as they lead Stags. What a pretty shot by Beener, who has to curve it a little bit to let that sit in the wind and just sits right out in front and makes nobody able to get there except Neely.
Almost exciting. Hayes, who got the catch block on the other sideline there before Bjorklund threw it away. Hayes was in hot pursuit, and I'm not sure Neely knew he was there, but a nice throw allowing Neely to make the easy catch. Hayes, not enough time there to catch up, but a good effort. And the Rainmakers extend their lead and will pull downwind, hoping for a break here to gain much momentum.
Slightly more chance of a break on this side, considering that wind is going right to left and a little bit away from the camera, which means all of these offensive points are a little bit upwind. It's nothing crazy, but it does make those throws harder.
Harmouche, nice pull into the Stags end zone, centers to McGinn. Open is Seamer. Seamer to Bjorklund. Bjorklund, little chip shot to McGinn. McGinn slices it to Purston up line. Purston with it. Back to McGinn. That's a nice, pretty shot. McGinn on the end zone line finds Bjorklund. Bjorklund emphatically driving it home. Nice work by the Stags through some of their core offensive players up the flick sideline. A nice, steady bit of offense out of the Stags for the score.
You know, the Stags defense have really been ramping it up, as you see, pivoted by Hayes, who's been just a monster on D, getting all over the place, making it scary for the Rainmakers. The Rainmakers there, not able to put enough pressure on the Stags. Even as they march it up the same sideline, you know where that disc is going. They don't have to swing it because they're getting open 10 feet in front of the thrower.
And those are some of the stalwarts of Portland Stags offense. McGinn, Purston, Bjorklund, kind of trading passes there and showing what their offense has to offer with some nice shots up the flick line and doing a good job of finding the open guy in the end zone. Bjorklund coming back to the disc for the Stags goal.
As Orange brings it back within 3, still finding themselves behind, which is a first for them in the 2016 season.
15-12, Rainmakers. Rainmakers moving it over to Dewey Valentine. Up in the middle to McKibben. Tridiak takes off deep, but McKibben already looking for the swing there.
You know, once again, we saw somebody come across the middle on that set play, but it was Breen, and Breen didn't even look like he was trying to get the disc. He just kind of jogged across the field, like it was a robot, just doing what he's supposed to do, not fired up.
If you're in the center of a horizontal stack offense, you got to want that disc. A little push in the back as Tridiak gets it. Cocks it, launches it. Breen open in the end zone. Great shot, Danny Tridiak, and Breen wanted that one. And gets a nice upwind goal for the Rainmakers as they extend their lead to 16-12.
I think Tridiak was a little jealous of Beaner's beautiful flick put last time and says, I'll do the same thing, but let's make it, I'll up you 10 yards.
And a nice shot. You can see the wind up from Tridiak. A nice steady thrower, real strong arm.
We've got 4 minutes left in the quarter as you're seeing this performance wear by Canterbury. Canterbury, the performance apparel partner to Major League Ultimate. Visit www.canterburyus.com today, the destination for your team's custom uniforms. Canterbury, committed to Ultimate.
6 minutes left in the first quarter. As the Rainmakers get set to pull here. Try to
6
extend
minutes
their
left.
lead.
Rainmakers up 4, 16-12, and the Stags really need to bring that down to, say, 2 to come into that fourth quarter with a real chance with some momentum behind them to bring it back and win this game.
Smith to Melius. Hayes open deep. See if they find him. Bjorklund has the throws, but good defense by the Rainmakers shutting down the Huck. Melius back to Smith. Smith on the sideline. Wow. Sends it up. McGinn, very tall, able to reel it in. Sending it deep to Hayes. Hayes finds the opening. A nice shot from McGinn. Hayes tracking it and catching it over a pursuing,
Breen.
looks like Klein. Rainmakers not able to get there. A nice score. Trading upwind scores now are the Rainmakers and the Stags. The Stags will need a break if they're looking to come back and win this one.
That shot from McGinn didn't really give Breen on defense there a chance, as Hayes, who has just been all over the disc since the second quarter really, in this middle half of the game, he's been all over the disc, and he finds a goal to bring the Stags up to 13.
Hayes doing it on both ends. Some great defensive plays. They're catching a nice shot from McGinn. McGinn using his height, a little shot up the line. A shorter player might not have been able to bring that one in. McGinn catches it and launches it. Goal for the Stags.
Looked a little scary, but he pulls the tear down, and I wonder if Breen was caught watching it, turned around and saw, uh-oh, Hayes is 5 yards deep on me, and with a guy like Ralphie Hayes, you can't do that.
And it's Hayes for days. Stags with the pull. That's Rice sending it into the end zone of the Rainmakers. Gussin, former coach of the Rainmakers, now back in uniform. Oh, give go with McKibben. Finds Hauser. Isaac Entz, big target, takes off. Takes two defenders with him, leaving Tridiak with it. Tridiak will then launch it up. Entz has two defenders in pursuit this time. And the Stags able to get a hand on it. Looks like Woodside, but there's a call from the ref. It looks like a foul is called, and Entz will retain the disc.
Looks like Woodside got a bit to Entz's arm on the way up. That is just a battle of monsters. They're both about 13 feet combined. And you've got Entz walking back to the end zone as he's going to have a chance to push it just 1 inch in.
Ooh, a little inside-out shot from the big man, making it the Entz zone. Hauser.
Rainmakers 17 to Stags 13 as Hauser finds yet another time disc in his hands, chance to pull an El Salam, but instead just flips the disc off, walks off the field.
He doesn't quite flip the disc off, just flips the disc. But I do agree that Hauser, if he were to work in some sort of end zone celebration or dance, he catches enough goals where he could kind of build a series of moves, really become a YouTube sensation if he put his mind to it.
I think what they need is a pod workout where they practice their end zone celebrations.
Well, Jake and I may have a discussion with the Rainmakers coaches, really just focusing on end zone celebrations, especially if they're going to have games without Khalif El Salam and Henry Fan. They need to step up their celebration game. That's all right. So far, the game is in their favor as the Rainmakers are pulling here. The Stags coming up short of the end zone. The vertical stack of the Stags taking the field. Slow to start, going back through the handlers. Will Shaw, McGinn trading passes. McGinn well guarded there by Greeley. And a pass has to go over the top, and Melius not able to come down with it. Good pressure by the Rainmakers, had two defenders there.
Johnny Stacy goes over the back.
I credit that D actually to Greeley, who shut down McGinn, who was the only other handler back, and forced Shaw to have to throw that.
You saw last time the Stags taking a play out of Rainmakers' playbook. Not a good play where they put everyone too deep. Here's a deep shot, and Trey Miller able to pull it in. Crowd favorite, you can hear them loving that 18th point by the Rainmakers as the Rainmakers maintain their lead, even pull it up a bit. 18-13, Miller with the goal.
And Miller, more of a receiver than a thrower, gets the disc, wisely dumps it to a handler and takes off. And Feely, feeling it, finds him with a nice big backhand shot, puts it out in front, and Trey Miller got some wheels on him and reels it in for the goal. Nice shot, nice grab.
Wheels and reels from Trey Miller. As you see him and Feely celebrating a new connection on the sideline.
So you're saying feels, wheels, and reels?
Oh, it's a triumvirate. It's the trifecta.
As the Rainmakers looking to pull up wind, try to extend their lead.
You've got very quiet Portland Stags right now as they realize their offense has to keep scoring. Of course, that's offensive job. Just put it in the end zone, get your D-line out. But the D is going to have to break 5 times to get back into this game.
Short pull. Smith sends it up line to Melius. A couple cutters go up the line. Wise thing here is to swing it. He looks not really at the swing. Sends it up that same line to Bjorklund. Now to Melius. Throw that swing, dude. Nope. Looking at the line.
Sheridan doing a great job blocking those swings, but finally gets off.
Now finds the swing. There's a swing, and it goes over to Hayes from Smith. Back to McGinn. McGinn alone. Hayes open, however. No defender on him right now. And McGinn finds an opening, and Hayes, unmarked, sends it in to McGinn. Good cross-field movement from the Stags leads to a goal. That swing, really important for moving it across and putting the pressure on the defense, as we saw just there.
Credit to Sheridan, who was on the mark there, really stopping that across field, which is slightly downwind. You know, it's an easy throw to make, but he really got around that disc and forced them to play a little give and go over on the near side of the field before they finally broke it to the other side, and that's what led to the score.
And Melius not giving that first swing enough of a look, I think. I think you really, even his fake was a little half-hearted. I'm just doing it. I'm just throwing it out there, but I'm really looking at the backhand. When you catch that dump, I think it's so important to pivot all the way around as if you're going to throw the swing. If it's there, I say you throw it. Even if not, if you really step out and commit to that pivot and that fake, you're going to move the defense and give yourself an inside-out shot or more opportunity for a shot down that line. But I think going halvesy on the pivot and fake on the swing is a mistake.
That's right. A fake is not about theatrics. A fake means it was a real option that you decided not to take.
The most effective fakes are indeed. And here we see a sideline clearing for the Rainmakers, and Hauser fills that sideline that was cleared. McKibben finds him. Hauser winding up the flick. Clay Dewey-Valentine, a little dance, makes Hauser call that timeout. Not sure what he was going to do there. Wisely calls a timeout to retain possession.
Great man D there by Cole, who had to shut down one-on-one with Clay Dewey-Valentine. That's not an easy job to do. And Dewey-Valentine does some dance moves, and Cole says, I know this dance. I'll dance with you. Stays right on his hip and forces a timeout from Seattle.
A T-shirt giveaway here, trying to rally the Seattle crowd in the afternoon sun. Wake them up from their slumber here. It's a warm Seattle afternoon.
And you too can dress like the Rainmakers with Canterbury. Canterbury, the performance apparel partner of Major League Ultimate. Visit www.canterburyus.com today, the destination for your team's custom uniforms. Canterbury is committed to Ultimate. And you can hear these fans are committed to the Rainmakers and the crowd experience here as they are yelling for T-shirts.
As their hometown Rainmakers are up 18-14 over the Portland Stags. The Stags, of course, dominating the Rainmakers in their first showdown in Portland. So if the Rainmakers are able to hang on here, it'll be trading home victories with one of their rivals, the Stags.
Right now in the West Coast Division, so far Vancouver has not been doing very well, but the Dogfish, the Stags, and the Rainmakers all look like they're in the mix together. It was wondering for a while if the Rainmakers were going to have a weak year after just that one first showing. And here they're proven, no, this is not a weak year. It was just one game, and we're not too worried about it.
A lot of veteran players on both sides, both the Rainmakers and the Stags. And we're really seeing that come to bear in the offensive play. Both offensive teams really going through some of their veteran players to keep the disc moving and keep it alive.
Yet still looks like everyone is just setting up deep. I don't know if this is a new style of play or if the coaches will have something to say. It looks like they're 15 yards out.
And, McKibben not able to find anything downfield, not able to find a dump, looks to send it to the middle of the field and turfs it, unforced error, and we'll see if the Stags can capitalize. Nice D by Dewey Valentine, kind of faking the double team and then gets off balance, and the Stags able to move it quickly. And now Frainer looking up line. Again, good D by Dewey Valentine, but the triple cut allows Cole to get open. And a timeout is called, likely here, so that the Stags D line can sub on here, although
we're not sure if they're actually calling it.
Not sure.
There's some discussion with the officials right now.
Yeah, it does look like a timeout, so there may be a personnel change here, or they're just looking to set up a play for that counterattack for Portland.
One thing I'm noticing, oh boy, the crowd's going to make this hard to hear, but I'm still noticing how the Stags seem to be marching it up one sideline at a time and not doing a good job at swinging it. Maybe they're trying, but they're not doing it. What do you think they need to change, or what is Seattle doing right that's preventing the Stags from using the whole field?
Well, I think, like I kind of mentioned earlier, I think really utilizing the swing. Once you dump the disc, I think you really got to look to swing it aggressively, especially in a vertical stack, because it really puts pressure on the defense when you have to guard both sides of that stack. If you're running it up one sideline, defensively you can cheat over a little bit, especially in a wind. When there's some wind, that break throw across the top, whether it's a high backhand or a hammer, becomes a very difficult throw, allows the defense to catch up. So by keeping it on one sideline in a vertical stack, the defense is able to kind of sit in those lanes and put pressure on some of those downfield throws.
Yeah, so then the downfielders either need to just beat their guy to the open side, or the thrower has to do some crazy cross-field hammer, something bizarre to get it across, where what I'd love to see out of the Stags is just more dump and swing the disc, use that whole field, and as you said, keep the defense on their toes, not knowing where the disc is going to attack from.
Another great option in the vertical stack, and this happens a lot by using good fakes and pivoting, is to hit the front of the stack, who's then able to deliver it to either side of the stack. So if you're getting off to the sideline, rather than going back and across, slicing one into the front of the stack allows a quick continuation. We haven't seen a ton of that from either team. Of course, Seattle running more of a horizontal offense. And we'll see what they can do here. Melius puts Rupp on his back there with a nice cut-up line. And there you see another little give-go on the line. Still on the line. This time Melius looks to swing, but Hayes gets wide open coming across, and they're going to maybe try to jam one in. Hayes smartens up. Maybe he's been listening to the commentary. Moves it back a little swing, and then a give-go with Melius finding the window. And though they swung it off the line, they came right back. Portland Stags really taking advantage of that flick line, punching it in.
So exactly what you said would happen. Once you get that to the front of the stack, that the front of the stack can either send it to the other side or send it back, but at least you've got the defense guessing. It's not just on that one sideline. The D knows where you're going to hit.
I really like what Hayes did there. He was looking at punching it in. There was a lot of guys right in front of the disc, right in that corner of the end zone, both offensive and defensive players. He wisely chose to swing the disc. Area cleared out. Melius back to Hayes. Cuts up the line. Back to Melius. A nice little gives and goes good heads-up play by the Stags.
In this third quarter, the Stags bring it back within 3, still down, but hanging in there. They've been down 3 for a long time, trading points for a while, but they're going to just have to come back. They were down 5 at one point, bringing it back and need some momentum going into this fourth quarter to have a chance to pull out their 3rd consecutive win and maintain their spot at number 1 on the leaderboard.
And looks like Woodside is in on D. The long arms of Woodside may be able to get in and get a block. Hayes has been great for the Stags on defense.
What?
That was an interesting choice. Was going to watch it go out of bounds, and then.
But Brink decided to catch it, and look where that ends up, in the hands of the Stags with only 20 yards to go.
Brink making a couple of interesting choices on the receiving end of a pull. There keeps it in, but then a couple of rush throws from the Rainmakers lead to a Stags.
There's another
goal
break by the Stags.
Finding Rice in the end zone there. The double team on the end zone line is a risky play because somebody's open. That time it was Rice, and they find him for a quick break, which is exactly what the Stags are hoping for if they're going to come back in this game.
Stags now within 2 as it's 18-16. I agree with you totally. That double team works when the person you leave open is far sideline, is somehow really not in the play. But in that end zone offense, whoever you're leaving open knows they're open and is only going to be 15 yards from being a goal.
I like that double team if it's something called out of a timeout and the rest of the defense is aware it's happening and can adjust so that the other 5 guys can guard the remaining 6 offensive players. But on the fly there, without the ability of the defense to adjust and find that open guy and cover him, it's going to lead to what just happened, which is a wide open guy in the end zone. It's not
and
what you want.
Even if somebody shifts to cover him, now you got somebody else who's open. It's just not a good decision at that place.
It can pay off. Some of those risky defensive plays can make it exciting, but we haven't really seen that pay off on the end zone line.
And there's veteran
today.
Gavin McKibben who watches the disc go out of bounds instead of trying to catch it and keep it in.
Feely will center the disc. The flat stack. Oh, wow. Klein, little step inside, gets open deep. Feely sends one too high for Neely to get, and the Stags again attacking on the counterattack. Feely.
Clearly with the Stags here as they find themselves defensively with the disc again.
Nice inside-out shot up to Rice. Cole can't get open. They find Hayes. Hayes, inside-out shot will float.
Boy,
But Cole
oh boy.
able to chase it down. Another break, another quick break for the Stags.
And I would be shocked if you don't hear a timeout from Seattle as they need to stop this Stags momentum.
I wouldn't even be surprised if we saw a timeout from the Stags to take another half-field pull.
That is, I believe, the B-Stock rule, that those half-field pulls, you will get the disc. You might not score, but you'll get it back.
I think so far that's been true. No timeout called, so the teams will take the field. The Rainmakers offense hoping to slow the momentum of the Stags, who have brought it back within 1. 18-17 Rainmakers as the Rainmakers will receive the pull.
You know, for no particular reason, I decided that the Stags had to come within 2 going into the fourth quarter to really make this a game. They're already within 1, and there's time left on the clock.
Time is ticking away here in the third, and the Stags hoping to tie it up with a break here. Of course, the Rainmakers hoping to prevent that, retain possession and score. A nice big pull from the Stags.
Rainmakers' defense have not been on for a while, so I wonder if they're switching up personnel to try to say, hey, we need somebody out here who can just convert this disc because the offense isn't getting the job done.
Yeah, Chris Rupp and Dewey Valentine both been playing some defense for the Rainmakers. Now on the offensive end, there you see Rupp to Dewey Valentine. Looking off Tridiak now, finding Tridiak in the middle. A more traditional offensive. Wow!
Wow!
Great D. That's Cole, who just caught the goal on the other end, and then they punch it into Purston for another break to tie the game at 18s. Great D by Cole. A little bit of a lazy shot by Tridiak there from the handler set. And the Stags, with all the momentum, as the score is tied late in the third.
I have to say the Stags are earning it. This is not just throwaways by the offense. This isn't the Rainmakers turfing it. This is really deserved D's. Did you see that grab by Cole?
I did. Yeah.
Dives after a trailing disc, knocks it down, puts it right in the end zone, and it's a goal before Seattle even knows what's happened.
Good D, and then great counterattacks by Portland. Like you said, Jake, hoping to see some forced turnovers in this half after a lot of unforced errors in the first, and we've seen a little bit of a mix of both. We saw Eddie Feely send one lofting too high and giving Portland a chance with that one. There, though, Cole goes out and gets it, and PDX goes in, and the Stags tie it up, making it a game here, 18-18.
The crowd chanting, "I believe that we will win." We, of course, the Seattle Rainmakers, as we are playing here in Rainier Beach, Seattle.
Rupp to Feely. Pressure by McGinn. Gussin takes off. Feely finds Bailey. Bailey sends up an ill-advised scuba to Gussin, but not really to Gussin. It actually went to Dan Shaw, who gets the D, and now the Stags have a chance to take the lead.
That wasn't being caught anyway, but Shaw wanted to let everyone know when that disc isn't getting caught by a Rainmaker, I'm going to take it.
Good pressure by Feely. Rice finds McGinn, however. McGinn launches one up. Bailey gets the D after throwing it away.
Bailey.
Motivated to get that back and gets it with authority.
Cam Bailey diving in front of two orange shirts.
Oh,
get that D.
Gussin gets a little shell shock there on the catch and will take yards. Stacy taking off, hoping to get a quick one.
As the game and players end up neck and neck.
Klein with the disc. Little hack on the mark. Finds Bailey. Bailey, who turned over with the scuba, got a great D to get the disc back over two Stags players, and then gets the goal from the hammer from Klein. Wow, Cam Bailey with an exciting point, that one.
Between Bailey this point, Cole last point, you are seeing man defense stepping up and really taking ownership of that disc. If it's in the air, even when Shaw saw it in the air, nobody's going to catch it, but I can touch it, I'm doing it.
That was an offensive score for the Rainmakers, but a really exciting point with both teams having a shot at that one. And the Rainmakers retain the lead, 19-18, as we come up on the end of the third quarter here, looming.
Rainmakers, sponsored by Skippy. Skippy, the official peanut butter of the Seattle Rainmakers, made with the funnest peanuts ever. Skippy Yippee.
Yippee indeed. The excitement is building here at Rainier Beach Stadium as the hometown Rainmakers pull. There's Harmouche with a big hanging pull that's going to go maybe all the way into the crowd.
And it might have been fan appreciation, except Chris Rupp decides to show his hops and prevent that disc from going into the crowd.
And the member of the fans there who was hoping to catch that walks back to his seat, head down.
And there's going to be a huck as the quarter comes to a close. And it is in the end zone.
Open, guys.
And Woodside comes down with it to tie the game as the third quarter closes. 19-19, Rainmakers Stags. Woodside and Purston share that disc. Not sure who's going to get the goal, and I don't think they care much as long as it goes on the scoreboard.
Both were left open on the far sideline, and a nice Blady Huck flick shot, giving them both a chance as the Rainmakers couldn't get there. Woodside hangs on for the goal, and we're not quite out of the quarter yet. The Rainmakers will have another chance to come out with the lead here, but all tied up at 19s.
My guess is there's just going to be a center to Tridiak. You've got about 3 seconds to work it between probably Dewey Valentine and Tridiak. And then it's going to be a game of 500 as you see the Giants in. There's Woodside, there's Hayes. You've got Ben Beener, Isaac Entz for Seattle. And it's just going to be a loft into the end zone and see if the Stags can get the block or if the Rainmakers are going to pull up 20-19 in the last 3 seconds of the quarter.
And we love seeing Entz and Woodside. Big frames on those guys, getting a lot out of the air here. It'll probably be centered to Tridiak, who will immediately launch it. There goes 3 into the end zone. It's a big hammer, looks like it'll come up short of the end zone anyways.
Woodside catches it just for good measure.
It's all tied up at 19-19 coming into the fourth quarter of play. Don't go anywhere. We've seen some hucks from half field, a little bit of a breeze. We haven't seen too many full field hucks today, but certainly both teams have throwers who can send the disc the full length of the field. So see where the strikes come from here as we come into the fourth quarter, tied 19-19. The Stags pulling here. Rice sends the pull down into the Rainmakers end zone. A nice pull on the side of the end zone. Tridiak centers to Dewey Valentine. The flat stack, Entz open underneath. They send a handler across to make space for the rail cutter downfield to come back and get it. Looks like Neely, who gets some contact on the reception and will take some yards. Entz working downfield, as is Ostergaard, to try and get open in the middle. Dewey Valentine pivoting across. Tridiak well guarded. Tridiak finds Neely. Finds Dewey Valentine.
Those downfield cutters so deep that they're not really viable.
Klein gets it. Neely. Oh, wow, good communication there. I thought Neely was going to catch it. Probably Dewey Valentine right behind him saying, I got it, because he leaves it for him. Klein now with it. Klein sends a hanging backhand out to Ostergaard, who does a great job of stepping back so that he can step into the disc. Good defensive pressure, and it looks like some contact. Ostergaard, nice catch. Good work with the contact.
Good work by Ostergaard, managing to not just stay flat-footed as the disc comes to you, but really take a step back so you can take a step forward and get that running jump to attack it.
And Penner comes in trying to get that D, but again, Peter Ostergaard, a good position and utilizing that position. Wow, that was lucky. Moving it across, the Rainmakers, Brinks sends one up and it bobbles, and Tridiak thought he had it on the bobble, can't retain it. Bowie picking up the disc and initiating the counterattack for the Stags.
As Neely struggles to get back into position, and the Rainmakers not really picking up their men yet. There's
Davis.
Klein in the back, not sure who he's guarding.
Out to Woodside. Neely on Bowie. Bowie gets position. Neely hand up in there, but Bowie able to hang on. And the Stags, after some back and forth there, come up with yet another break.
That is the Stags going from down 5 to up 1. Seattle really needs to get their cleats back in the turf here.
And there was good defensive pressure there from the Stags, finally paying off. Tridiak earlier in the game, there was a D and a bobble, and he got it. This time he loses focus a little bit as that disc goes end over end. Can't hang on. Bowie picks up the disc, initiates it. Rainmakers on their heels, and Bowie ends up getting it. A great effort by Neely, but just can't get there as Bowie brings it in for the Stags break.
You know, it's not the bobble I mind, it's that transition from O to D and D to O that I think the Stags are just doing that faster. They realize there's a turnover, and boom, they're in offense mode, while the Rainmakers are still kind of looking around thinking, what just happened?
There's a couple times so far this game where, yeah, the Stags score, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of those Rainmakers are still looking for their guy. Stags pull here. Rainmakers offense has been struggling coming out of the third quarter and into the fourth. We've seen that a lot. The guy cutting across there, Dewey Valentine, clearing space on the sideline. The stack is too deep, so their downfield cutters not super viable. Gusson comes in, finds an opening, sends a very lofty flick across. Wow, good D by Bjorklund. McKibben can't hang
comes
on.
Down with it as if it were just thrown to him.
McGinn, disc in the middle. Looks like Melius open on the side. Can't tell if that's Melius or not there. Oh, wow. Blady flick, McGinn. Nice grab.
Still need to use that whole field. Would love to see more swings left and right.
Sorry, there's Melius.
To move that line of attack.
Oh, wow, great grab. That's Dan Shaw.
Keeping it in play right on the end zone.
Shaw looks off a couple of short shots there. Bjorklund swings out. McGinn. And slicing one right into the middle. That's Dan Shaw. left wide open right in the middle of the field. Again, the Rainmakers in transition after the turnover, struggling to find their men and get into good defensive positioning.
I wonder if the Rainmakers are just getting demoralized at this point, as one thing the Stags have been very good at doing, as they're on this run, even when they're getting ahead, they're not taking anything for granted. They're still coming out fired up. They're hard on D. You saw Shaw bidding like crazy to just keep the disc alive. And you're not seeing that kind of ferocity on the Rainmakers right now. They seem a little defeated.
And it's not so surprising. The Stags have been on a little bit of a tear here, up now 21-19 into the fourth quarter. They were down as many as 5 in the third quarter. So big credit to the Stags D, who's been forcing the turnovers and really doing a great job of counterattacking after getting the disc back. And unfortunately, discredit to the Seattle Rainmakers offense, who, as you say, Jake, may be a little flustered here, certainly, and continue to struggle, looking to pull it out and clean things up here as we're underway into the fourth quarter here.
You mentioned the chicken egg before. I think the egg or chicken, I'm not sure which, is trying to act up as you hear the crowd trying to start some cheers, hoping to inject a little energy into their home team.
Good movement now up the middle. Beener with it in their horizontal offense. Finds Bailey. Reset here. Here's Rupp. Feely takes off from the handler position. Probably needs to come back. He's a rock of their handler set.
Feely doing a good job of what you said earlier. It's not a fake. You're not faking deep. He's running deep, and if he happens to be open, he'll keep going.
Nice slicing shot. Cam Bailey was open deep and really wanted it. Able to get it to him. Beener comes across, double guarded. Who's the open man? And then Beener's left. That's Klein. Left for the open shot right into the corner. Nice find by Bailey, who got open deep, catches it on the end zone line, and has the patience to find an open Klein, punching it in. Rainmakers goal on the offense scoring.
You know, I know on that point the crowd wants something amazing. They want a big sky, a big bid. But I think what Kingery and McKibben wanted was exactly what happened. Just some smooth offense that makes it look easy.
When you get it right on the line in that corner, the easiest pass to score is that little 5-footer, 2-footer there. Probably actually easier on a 5-footer. But just what they got there. Bailey finds Klein in the corner. Way to stay with it because two defenders were drawn in there and then laid off.
I think you're absolutely right that sometimes you can be too close to the end zone and too happy where there's just such a small little space to put it into that the defenders know where you're going. They're going to stand in that space, and you got to bring it back out. There's a timeout call from Seattle as they probably just want to take a breather. They are down 1. They have not found themselves down much this game, leading by 3 at the half, leading by 5 in the third quarter. And now the Stags storming back.
Down 1, the Rainmakers will get the pull from half field, putting some pressure on the Stags, who will have to fight upwind here. The Stags getting real comfortable on defense, scoring some breaks. Now they'll have to prove something on the offensive end, and we'll see if the defensive line from the Rainmakers can bring some energy here to grab momentum back.
You know, it's interesting. Once there's a run like that, the offense can get really disheartened as they watch themselves get broken over and over. And you're an offensive player, finding yourself on defense, finding yourself being pulled out because you're not doing your job. What can be exciting is then you finally get the D on the field, and it's almost like a new team shown up. This team that hasn't gotten an opportunity to play for a while is getting frustrated watching their team do worse and worse and worse. And I wonder if the Rainmakers D is just chomping at the bit right now to show, hey, we can get breaks too.
Well, you would think so, and you would hope so for their sake. And we'll see if the D-line of the Rainmakers can put the pressure on enough to force a turnover. Credit to the Stags, though. They've been forcing turns, and then their counterattack has been so quick and so strong. And the Rainmakers could certainly use some of that, pushing the pressure onto the Stags, and then the counterattack equally as important.
Very quick transitions. I'm looking right now in the crowd at Andrew Lynch, former Rainmaker, who is now out after a shoulder surgery, taking the season off. One of the very best at those quick transitions.
We've got a lot of faces here and a lot of legs that haven't seen points recently here for the Rainmakers. So a lot of fresh legs. Like you say, Jake, a lot of, hopefully, eager defenders out here chomping at the bit. A lot of the regulars for the Stags who've been playing a lot of points here. You've seen Purston and Bjorklund and Hayes, Melius with a lot of touches for the Stags.
You know, the old rule is you always play like you're down 2. It's not too hard for Seattle to play like that. They are down 1 right now. 21-20, Stags lead.
Nice pull by Eddie Feely, rolls out the back, and they'll put the pressure on. Bjorklund with the disc. Good defensive pressure from the Rainmakers, having to dump it really close to their back line. McGinn now with it. Little flippy shot.
Looks like those Rainmaker defenders really are chomping at the bit. You see a lot of contact downfield. There you saw some more.
Nice attempt. Hayes able to hang on through the contact. The ref doesn't call it, even though he's standing right there. Little floaty shot out in front. If Rainmakers had been paying attention, that could have been a D. Oh, and a nice D. Shut down. Chris Rupp gets his hand in the flick shot from Smith. Smith looking deep to Melius, but Rupp says nope.
Rainmakers doing what they had to do. You saw Greeley bid. There's Greeley getting the disc right there. You saw a great D by Johnny Stacy getting the mark on Cody Bjorklund. You just saw a lot of fire in the belly of the Rainmakers.
Peter Bender with a nice cut from the handler set up the line. Feely was struggling. Not too many guys open deep. Nice work by Bender getting open for Feely there. Bender again goes deep, leaves Greeley open. Bender comes under for Feely. Sends one across to Miller. That's going to be anybody's ball. And it's Miller's ball. Miller time, baby. Comes up huge. Trey Miller with the athleticism and the hops. A questionable throw, but making his teammate look good as Trey Miller goes up and comes down with it.
You saw Bender throw that disc high floaty into the air, and as soon as he throws it, you just watch his hands hit his knees, and he looks down like, what have I done? And Trey says, I'll show you what you've done.
Trey Miller, a great grab after I'd been talking up Peter Bender for doing some great creative cutting out in the field. Bender puts up a floaty one. Trey Miller has his back, gets up big for the Rainmakers, and that's a nice momentum shift. The D team comes in, forces the turn, a nice D by Chris Rupp, and they're able to capitalize. And it's a tie game once again, 21-21 here in the middle of the fourth.
Now that is never the play you drop. You never drop, we're going to throw something really high and floaty, let a bunch of people come under it, and hope that Trey Miller comes down with the disc. But it's the play they got, and it's the play that really fires up the Rainmakers and is a little hit to the Stags' morale.
And it might be what Trey Miller's been drawing up in his mind. Dreaming of that hanging one. When you got some hops like that, you kind of hope it does go up so you can show what you got, and the fans loved it, as do his Rainmakers teammates, and we'll see if they can keep the momentum going. Cam Bailey with a pull for the Rainmakers, sending it out of bounds.
That is a pull that only Trey Miller could have kept in if he wanted to. But instead, looks like the Stags are going to take it. You already see them setting up, and I'm looking at this setup where Purston is second in the stack. Purston is such a scary player deep, and you have Bjorklund last in the stack. My guess is Bjorklund's coming under, and they're looking for Purston deep.
Purston out in the lane. Beaner's really backing him, forcing him under, which allows him to get open under, but cuts off his cut because Will Shaw is there. Nice D, but Shaw able to hang on. Bjorklund looking downfield. Blady flick across the field. A little scary, but finds the intended receiver of Davis. Davis up to Adamson. Adamson finds Cole. Moving it up that sideline. Now swung to McGinn. McGinn wants to swing it. There goes the one handler. The front of the stack comes. That's how a vertical stack is supposed to work. When the dump goes up the line, the front of the stack has to come back and help out, which Davis does. Inside out backhand to Bjorklund for the score. Nice offense there by Portland, moving it all the way down the field, moving it through their handlers, and running some of the fundamentals of a vertical stack offense.
Stags really shown that they're not afraid of some of these tricky throws. There were a lot of blady flicks from the near side to the far side, and all of them looked just fine. It's the kind of thing where a coach might say, hey, that's not what we want to throw, but when you've got that kind of consistency, go ahead and do what you need to do as Portland comes in for a timeout.
And a really nice textbook inside-out backhand, slicing it in the line there into the corner for Bjorklund, front of the end zone. Well played by Portland's offense there. Some good pressure by the Rainmakers D, but Portland steady on O and takes the lead 22-21.
Sometimes you'll see that outside break, that flick around break until the defense gets frustrated, shifts their mark so they're really stopping that flick around, but that gives them that inside-out backhand break, which you saw hit Bjorklund for the score, 22-21 Stags lead.
And sometimes, like you say, the coach might be like, hey, don't flick around, But they were able to drop him into the intended receivers nicely despite the wind and capitalizing to make it happen.
And we've got a 1-point game here as Stags, not surprised to see themselves in the lead, but maybe surprised to see them in such a close game. And the only game where they've been losing during, but still so far, possibly on their way to a perfect season.
Well, it's early yet in the season as we get into the late stages of this game. Seattle certainly needs this win here to get some momentum back after dropping the game to the Stags in Portland. So really hoping to capitalize here without some of their big players. Ben Wiggins out with a foot injury. Khalif El-Salam at a college tournament this weekend. So the Rainmakers without some of their go-to players, but doing a great job of utilizing their bench. We saw just a couple points ago that D team was a lot of guys who hadn't played many points this game. They came in fired up. And Trey Miller, who's only been out here for a few points, came up with a big grab. I would like to see them getting a little bit deeper into their roster on the D-line, especially when you need that hunger, that fire coming in on the defensive end.
I agree with you totally. You're seeing some different folks coming out in a bit of a deeper rotation for the Stags. And I'm looking over here at the Rainmakers lineup. And surprise, surprise, you've got McKibben, you've got Hauser, you've got Tridiak. You've got kind of the usual suspects. Clay Dewey Valentine's out there, of course.
Well, on an offensive line, I don't mind that. You want that consistency. You got to have guys who play well together. On the defensive end, however, I think you can go a little bit deeper into your roster, get those guys who are hungry, find out who's playing well that day. Those defensive players, they're going to be hungry, but who's going to bring it? Give them a little bit of a chance to prove themselves and then work them into the rotation more and more as you get into the late ends of the game.
Just who's got the fire?
Tridiak catches the pull, falling down, throws it from the ground, which is never a good idea, but it works this time. A little contact on Hauser, and Hauser will retain the disc and move downfield. McKibben, traditionally a handler, downfield with Entz, who takes off too deep, coming back now. Entz, a big target for the Rainmakers. Got to come all the way back in. Tridiak has the throws. Hauser gets some space. Tridiak puts it out in front. Great throw to Hauser, and a good job by Entz coming in.
Off to the races.
Hauser finds Dewey Valentine. Fakes the backhand and then throws it. He should have gone with his instinct, which was not to throw it there. Ostergaard looking at a cut to the sideline there, but Adamson had plenty of opportunity to get the D.
That up. I'm surprised that the defense has not adjusted better to Hauser. You see people, there's somebody open deep. Nobody's on him. Throw goes up. Ostergaard's going to be able to get underneath that.
Ostergaard wants it because Adamson D'd him, but wow. Frainer with a huge grab elevates and scores. That's a tough point for Peter Ostergaard.
That was the Trey Miller of the Stags right there, Frainer.
Frainer gets up big against Ostergaard. Ostergaard covered some ground. Frainer was wide open. The Stags able to move it to the middle of the field and then get off the hook. Ostergaard there with a chance, but Frainer said, I'm open. I'm getting it. And he gets up and comes down with it, and the Stags go up by 2 with a break.
Had really the opposite effect of Miller's Sky on the other end zone, where the crowd got fired up and everyone was all excited. But here at Seattle, that really quieted the crowd.
And I just didn't like Dewey Valentine's look there. He looked for the backhand to Ostergaard, holstered it, and then threw it again. And Adamson wanted it. He thought it might be coming that first time. Didn't come the first time, came the second time. He was all over that D. And here, you know, I don't know what I would do as the coach because I'm not the coach, but Dewey Valentine is back in after an end zone line turnover. Maybe give him a chance to think about that one. But hopefully he'll bounce back. He's a veteran player for the Rainmakers. So
you don't want to see those kind of risks on offense. On defense, it's a little more likely to see those risky plays. You've usually got a very athletic team out, and you're chomping at the bit because you're all fiery from defense. On offense, your job is to be chilly and take the open throw.
Nice movement here from the Rainmakers. Feely up line to McKibben. Klein goes deep, draws two defenders. Nice shot across the field to Hauser. That was a little bit of a risky window, but a great throw. Hauser over to Breen. Nice movement, nice swinging here by the Rainmakers. They need some attacking shots as Feely lofts up a beautiful bladey flick, and Klein just can't hang on. It was a great throw. Klein had it right there in his breadbasket and just not able to turn it into toast.
That is trouble. That is Stags up two. That could have brought it back within one, a much-needed point for the Rainmakers. And there you have a drop. And you've got an offense now that has to play defense and is a little disappointed in themselves.
That is tough here. And Portland not going to want to call a timeout here. You don't want to give a chance to bring the Rainmakers fresh legs in here. A lot of these guys out on the field for the Rainmakers have been playing much of this game. Purston lofts one way in the air. And Dan Shaw finds the opening, dives for the goal. And Portland once again just capitalizing quickly and precisely on the turnover by the Rainmakers.
You see a lot of very slow walking back from the Rainmakers as they must feel the energy's all gone and the Stags are storming.
Well, you know, as the Rainmakers, you want to be the one storming, especially here at home. The Stags marching back in a herd here. And up now 3 as we're well into the fourth quarter. The Rainmakers need to really make something happen here for themselves. And that's just unfortunate. Eddie Feely puts up a nice bladey flick shot that comes right down to the hands of Klein, who just can't hang on. Maybe should have gone with the pancake catch rather than the crab catch. But either way, should have brought that one in, and Klein's got to be thinking about that now.
Absolutely. And, you know, that was a great decision by Feely. It was as you said, moving it back and forth across the field, and, you know, your wish is their command. You say they need to just eventually look into the end zone. You can't move it back and forth over and over and over.
Yeah.
They move it back and forth. Hey, there's an open Klein in the end zone.
Yeah.
Let's put it to him. And then, you know, you drew it up. It worked perfectly, but the hands got to get on the disc.
A lot of unforced errors here in the game today. You don't like to see them in a close game in the fourth quarter. So the Rainmakers really need to go on a run here. We saw it's possible. We saw the Stags doing it coming out of the third quarter and into the fourth. The Rainmakers looking to swing some of that momentum back here. A relatively quiet Seattle crowd could certainly use something to get excited about here. And the Stags, of course, are looking to keep pouring it on here. Done just an excellent job, to their credit, on the counterattack following Seattle turnovers.
Absolutely. Seattle needs some energy here, and Portland needs nothing to change. They just want to keep playing the game they're playing.
So we'll see what comes out of this timeout here. Seattle doing a better job that last point, moving the disc horizontally across the field until there was an attack and just couldn't come up with it. Of course, Portland called that timeout. We've seen a bunch of timeouts this game utilized in order to take advantage of a half-field pull, which has been quite effective for both teams. Here's Seattle, hoping it is not effective for Portland as they need their offense to score. And we see some personnel mix-ups here on the offensive line, a lot of similar faces that we've seen, but Trey Miller mostly playing defense now. Of course, back on the offensive line after a really exciting grab the last time I think he was out there.
Yeah, and I think they're just switching up their offensive line, trying to get some fresh Pete on there and see, hey, we need somebody to be a hero. Are you going to be the person?
Couple of familiar faces, of course, Hauser and Tridiak and Dewey Valentine out there quite a bit on the offensive end.
And we're going to see Hayes pulling with Woodside on his left. And, of course, Hayes been having a monster game with a flick bladey pull.
That's a nice pull into the corner. Well caught by Rupp. Centers to Tridiak. Both, there we go, Trey Miller takes off. Both of the center cutters in that horizontal stack made the same initial move. And I think you got to, coming out of a timeout into an offensive play, you don't have a play drawn up for your horizontal stack,
Wow.
you're going to get into trouble. Hayes catches it, thought he had the Callahan, looks to the ref.
Hayes has just been dominating the Rainmakers. Hayes, who dives past Johnny Ultimate and just catches it. Apparently feet hit before his hand. If his hand hit first, that would be a goal.
And sneaks one in there to McGinn. Drives it home with the spike. Hayes has played outstanding for the Stags with a dive by D there. And the Rainmakers, after their timeout, having been deflated, have to blow themselves back up here, get any chance at coming back here in the fourth quarter. And I just think if you're coming out of a timeout and you're on offense, you're running that horizontal stack, and your two center cutters don't know what they're doing coming into the play, what are you doing during that timeout?
You're not playing to win. They got to dig their feet back into the ground.
Even if it's a play, sorry to interrupt you, but even if it's a play that the Stags have seen over and over, at least you get the offense moving, you get some of that spacing going. What happened is both center cutters cut in. Trey Miller that adjusted and quickly took off deep, but by that time it was too late to send up the shot. I just think that you got to have a play call.
In a play call, if you're supposed to cut under and your defender is going to beat you under, you still cut under because that's the play call. The play is just a suggestion to get the offense moving. So run the play, and there's no way that play was both of you run the same direction.
Eddie Feely leaves one up short for Klein, who catches it, moves it over to Tridiak. Tridiak back to Feely. Dewey Valentine open in the middle. Klein takes two defenders deep, and Biener sees the opening. His defender cheated off to Klein, so Biener able to get open on a nice cut across the middle. Back down to Feely, back over to Rupp. Good movement by the Rainmakers. Swinging it over. Shimmy shake on the line. Doesn't get there. A little lefty flip to Rupp. Rupp on the end zone line and moves it up to Klein for the goal. Klein with a little one-handed grab. Has the confidence, even though he couldn't hang on in the last time in that end zone. So able to hang on this time for the Rainmakers goal, and they sure needed that one.
That's the same plan you saw last time they were going right to left where Klein dropped it in the end zone, is just using the whole field, throwing that disc on the far side, on the close side, swing, swing, swing. And each time they're swinging, they're gaining 5, they're gaining 10 yards. And before you know it, you swing it, and you're right in the end zone.
And it looks like likely a Rainmakers timeout again to pull from half field. I've not been keeping track of timeouts, but it's sure been a lot of them, huh, Jake?
I think they've changed the rules to a dozen a quarter, it looks like.
Yeah, Baker's dozen maybe. So the Rainmakers will pull.
Rainmakers will pull with just 43 seconds remaining in the game. They got score an impossible 3 points. Maybe they can do it. Dig their feet into the turf.
That would be impressive to score 3 in under a minute, but crazier things have happened, I suppose.
They are wearing .6 socks. .6 Socks, the official sponsor of Major League Ultimate. And you can check them out at www.point6.com for their full line of performance merino wool socks.
Well, the Rainmakers came out strong in the middle of this game, but the Stags' run in the third quarter really shifted the momentum, and the Stags have hung on. The Rainmakers fought back a little bit, but that run really holding strong, and the Stags looking to close out on offense. The Rainmakers will really need to put some crazy amount of pressure on here to force a turn and score with enough time to have it mean anything.
They'd have to score 3 times in 43 seconds. It's really not going to happen. If they could score twice, that would be a success. They'd come away having lost by 1 and really a feeling of next time we got them. if the Stags are able to put this in and maybe even score 2, that'll really send a message to the Rainmakers, hey, we beat you the first week, we beat you the second week, and we'll beat you again.
Well, the Rainmakers coming out to half field here, hoping to end on a good note. A great game here, game of runs in the first half, both teams going on runs, taking the lead. But that run in the third quarter by the Stags really was the game changer here. And the offense for the Stags looking to finish it out here.
It's a game they're going to look back on just because you've been leading all game, just because you're up 5. Don't take it for granted. Don't let yourself get sloppy. Don't try new things. If you're leading by 5, you got to lead by 6, 7, 8. You got to keep in that game.
Eddie Feely rolls a pull out the back. That short pull. Want to take advantage of it, put him in the back of the end zone. We're going to need to see some great pressure here by the Rainmakers to force anything. Oh, or a drop, but it doesn't quite drop it. Minershagen hangs on.
Valentine goes for a D, and
Wilshaw
the Stags find themselves out of their own end zone.
sends it up. Adamson. Adamson to Minershagen. Minershagen up the line. Eddie Feely chasing, but not able to get there. Little double team, little push pass, and they're just winding down the clock here. Portland doesn't need to score. They just need to retain possession. Minershagen gets it, and we're not seeing any stunts or anything by the Rainmakers, who may just be resolved to
It looks like the Rainmakers are
finish
happy
solidly.
just letting that clock tick out and taking the loss 25-22 as the Stags roll down the clock to finish out the game.
We saw a lot of unforced errors, but the real turning point was the Stags run where they forced turnovers and then really on the counterattack. And Portland Stags coming out the victors here today in Seattle.
Well, there will be more Ultimate, and you can tune in next week and catch more great MLU action on MLU Live.